Listen, can you hear it? That dry, rhythmic scratching sound. Scritch, scritch, pause, dip. Scritch. It is the only sound in the room, perhaps the only sound in the entire world right now. It is the sound of a reed pen dragging across the fibrous texture of a papyrus scroll, and it is the soundtrack of your existence. Welcome to the night shift, or rather, the My Master Needs This Copy of Virgil finished before the Rooster Crows shift. Take a moment to feel where you are. You're sitting on a wooden stool that frankly could use a cushion. Your back is arched in a permanent C shape, the occupational hazard of every scribe from here to Alexandria. The air in the room is thick, heavy with specific smells that define your life. There is the dry, grassy scent of the papyrus itself, thousands of sheets of it rolled and stacked in the cubbyholes around you. There is the sharp metallic tang of the ink in your clay pot. And above it all, the sweet, cloying aroma of beeswax. You are lucky, you know. Beeswax candles are a luxury. If the master were a miser, you'd be squinting by the light of a tallow lamp, smelling burning animal fat that would make your eyes water and your stomach churn. But no, the master fancies himself a philosopher, a man of culture, so he affords you the good wax. The flame flickers gently, casting long dancing shadows against the frescoed walls of the library. Let's look at your hand. It's stained black at the fingertips. That's atramentum, the ink, a mixture of soot, gum arabic and water. Simple ingredients, but when they dry on the page they become the voice of the empire. Your hand is cramping, a dull ache radiating from your wrist up to your elbow. You pause for a second, flexing your fingers, watching the way the candlelight catches the dust motes floating in the air. The dust here is ancient. It's the dust of ideas. You're in the bibliotheca, the library, of a sprawling Roman villa, nestled somewhere in the hills just outside the chaotic noise of Rome itself. It is late. How late? Hard to say. The water clock in the atrium stopped dripping hours ago, and the slaves haven't refilled it. But the silence tells you everything. The heavy velvet silence of the countryside at 3 a.m. Even the guard dogs in the courtyard have stopped barking at the moon. The only things awake are you, the mice in the walls, and perhaps the gods, though even they might be napping by now. Look around your domain. This isn't a massive public library like the Library of Celsus or the Great Halls of Alexandria. This is intimate, private. It's a small rectangular room lined with cedarwood shelves. The cedar is a smart choice. The oil in the wood keeps the bookworms away, or at least it's supposed to. You've seen enough holes in the scrolls of the Iliad to know that some bugs just have expensive taste. The shelves are honeycomb patterned, filled with volumina, scrolls. They aren't standing up like modern books. They are lying on their sides looking like stacked logs of knowledge. From the end of each scroll hangs a small leather tag, the syllabus dangling down like a little tongue. They have titles written in tiny, precise red letters. Cicero, Livy, Plato, Seneca. You know them all. In fact, you know them better than the master does. He collects them to look intelligent at dinner parties. You are the one who actually reads them, letter by letter, as you copy them. You dip your pen again. It's a calamus, a piece of dried reed cut to a sharp point. You have to sharpen it constantly with a small knife. If the tip gets dull, the letters get blobby. And if the letters get blobby, the master gets angry. And you do not want the master to get angry. He is a benevolent man as Roman masters go, which means he rarely beats the staff, but he has a withering sarcasm that hurts worse than a cane. Focus on the papyrus. It's expensive stuff imported all the way from the marshes of the Nile in Egypt. It's not smooth like the parchment that's starting to become popular in some circles. It has a grain, horizontal strips on the front, vertical on the back. You can feel the texture under your wrist as you write. The pen bumps over the little ridges where the strips overlap. It takes a steady hand to keep the ink flowing smoothly over those bumps. It's like driving a chariot over cobblestones. You have to know the terrain. What are you writing tonight? It's a letter. A very long, very tedious letter. From your master to a business associate in Pompeii. It's mostly complaining. He's complaining about the price of olive oil, complaining about the corruption in the Senate, complaining about his gout. You've written the word unbearable 3 times in the last paragraph alone. It's funny, isn't it? You're a slave. Or perhaps a freedman working for meagre wages, eating porridge and sleeping on a straw mat. Yet here you are, immortalizing the whining of a man who eats roasted dormice and sleeps on feathers. History is often written by the victors, they say, but physically, history is written by the tired guys in the back room with ink-stained fingers. The candle sputters. A draft must have come in. The villa is built for the summer heat, with open courtyards and wide peristyles. In the winter nights like this, it gets chilly. You pull your woolen tunic tighter around your shoulders. It's itchy, scratching against your neck, but it holds the warmth. You can feel the cold radiating from the mosaic floor through the thin soles of your sandals. The floor is beautiful, a black and white geometric pattern of a labyrinth. But right now, you'd trade all that artistry for a pair of thick socks. Barbarian socks. The Gauls know how to keep their feet warm. Romans are too proud for trousers and socks, even when they're freezing. Let's take a break, just for a moment. Put the pen down on the table, carefully. Don't let it roll onto the scroll. Rub your eyes. They feel dry and gritty. The light is soft, yes, but staring at black squiggles on brown paper for 6 hours strains the mind. You stand up to stretch, your joints popping like dry twigs. The silence of the house wraps around you. You decide to walk to the window. It's just a narrow slit in the wall, covered by a heavy wooden shutter to keep out thieves and the night air. You push the shutter open just a crack. Outside, the world is painted in shades of silver and black. The moon is full, hanging low over the olive groves. The twisted trunks of the olive trees look like old men frozen in conversation. Further down the hill, you can see the faint glow of a fire, maybe a shepherd or a traveller camped by the Via Appia. The air that rushes in is crisp and smells of damp earth and cypress trees. It wakes you up a little. It reminds you that there is a world outside this room, outside the master's letters, outside the endless copying of Greek grammar. But that world is asleep. You are the guardian of the words tonight. You close the shutter and turn back to the room. The library feels like a tomb, but a comforting one. It is a fortress of thought. There is a bust of Epicurus on a pedestal in the corner, staring at you with blank stone eyes. He looks peaceful. Death is nothing to us, he said. Easy for him to say. He didn't have a deadline for this scroll. You sit back down. The wood of the stool is hard. You pick up the pen, you pick up the knife, you shave a microscopic sliver off the tip of the reed to make it sharp again. Slice. A tiny sound, satisfying. You dip the pen, glug. The ink is getting a bit thick. You'll need to add a drop of water soon. Let's go back to the writing. You're copying a quote now, something the master wants to include to sound profound. Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. Seneca. It's a good line. You write the letters carefully. Vita. Life. The Roman capitals are blocky, strong. You aren't using the cursive script of daily notes. You are using the bookhand, clear, legible, designed to last. As you write, your mind drifts. You think about the kitchen slaves. They'll be up in a few hours to start the fires. You can almost smell the baking bread. Simple, coarse bread, dipping it in a bit of watered-down wine. The thought makes your stomach growl. A quiet rumble in the library. You hope Epicurus didn't hear that. There is a rhythm to this work that is almost hypnotic. Dip, right, dip. Your breathing slows down to match the movement of your hand. In a way, this is a form of meditation. You aren't you anymore. You are just a conduit. The thoughts of a genius or a complaining landlord flow through your eyes, down your arm, and out onto the wedge. You're a human printing press, centuries before the machine will be invented. But there are dangers here too, not lions or gladiators, but library dangers. A drop of ink falling in the wrong place. A sudden sneeze that tears the fragile papyrus. The worst is when you realise you've skipped a line. You're copying along, and suddenly the sentence makes no sense. You look back at the original text, and your heart sinks. You skipped from one and to a different and 3 lines down. There is no delete button. You can't just backspace. You have to scrape the ink off with a razor, risking a hole in the paper, or wash it away with a sponge if the ink is still wet, which leaves a smudge, or God forbid, start the whole sheet over. The master hates waste, so you pay attention, you focus. The candle has burned down an inch. A rivulet of wax drips down the side, cooling instantly into a white tear. The smell of the hot wax is stronger now. It's a comforting smell, a smell of safety. Outside this room, the Roman Empire is a dangerous place. Emperors are murdered, legions are defeated, taxes are raised, plagues sweep through the cities. But in here, the biggest crisis is a dull pen. In here, everything is ordered. Subject, verb, object, beginning, middle, end. The library is a sanctuary of order in a chaotic world. You look at the shelves again. There are hundreds of lives tucked away in those cubby holes. A scroll of medical cures for stomach aches next to a history of the Punic Wars. A collection of dirty poems by Catullus, hidden behind a dry treatise on agriculture. You've read the Catullus ones when the master wasn't looking. They made you laugh. It's strange to think that the man who wrote them is dead, dust in the ground, but his jokes are still here, making a slave chuckle in a drafty villa 100 years later. That is the magic of what you do. You aren't just copying ink, you are preserving ghosts. Your eyes are getting heavy. The flickering of the flame is mesmerizing. The shadows on the wall seem to be acting out a play. Is that shadow a soldier? No, just a bust of Pericles. Is that one a dancer? No, just the curtain moving in the draught. You realise you've been staring at the same word for a minute. Eternitas, eternity, a long time. The night feels like eternity. You shake your head, trying to clear the cobwebs. Just a few more columns. You need to finish this section before you can sleep. The process of rolling the scroll is an art in itself. As you finish writing a section, you have to carefully roll up the finished part with your left hand while unrolling a blank section with your right. You have to wait for the ink to dry or it will smudge against the back of the next layer. So you blow on it gently. Whoosh. A soft breath. The ink turns from a glossy wet sheen to a matte black finish. It is set. It is permanent. You dip the pen again, the ink pot is low, you tilt it to get the last dregs. The scratching sound resumes. Scritch, scritch. Think about the paper itself. Papyrus. It comes from the delta, far away. Men had to wade into the river, cut the stalks, peel them, slice them, soak them, hammer them together, dry them in the sun, polish them with ivory, and ship them across the Mediterranean just so your master could complain about his gout. The economy of the entire world is in this sheet of paper under your hand. It's humbling, really. The silence deepens. It must be the fourth watch of the night now, the darkest part before the dawn. The temperature has dropped another degree. You pull your legs up, resting your feet on the rung of the stool to get them off the cold floor. It's a cosy kind of misery. You're alone, but you are safe. You are working, but it is quiet work. Imagine the library in the daytime. It's a different place then. Sunlight streams in, dust motes dance frantically. The master is here, pacing back and forth, dictating loudly, waving his hands. No, no, write that down. Did you get that? Read it back to me. It's stressful, it's loud. But at night, the library belongs to you. You are the master of the scrolls. You can take a moment to read a passage of Homer if you want. You can pause to admire a particularly well-drawn capital letter. At night, you are not a slave, you are a scholar. You finish the paragraph. You set the pen down. You stretch your arms over your head, hearing your spine crack. You look at your work. It is neat. The lines are straight. The margins are even. It is a thing of beauty, this block of text. Even if the content is boring, the form is perfect. There is satisfaction in that. A job well done. You reach for the sand shaker, a small container with fine sand. You sprinkle a little over the last few lines to blot any remaining wetness. The sand makes a soft hiss as it hits the paper. You wait a moment, then blow the sand away. The letters remain crisp and black. You wonder if anyone will ever read this letter in 1,000 years. Probably not, it's just a business transaction. But maybe they will dig up this villa. Maybe they will find the library. Maybe the scroll will have turned to dust. But maybe, just maybe, the carbonized remains will survive. And some scholar in a world you can't imagine wearing clothes you wouldn't recognise, will look at your handwriting and say, "This scribe had a good hand. He was tired. You can tell by the way the letters slant at the end, but he was good." It's a nice thought, a secret connection with the future. But for now, the future is just the next column of papyrus, the blank whiteness waiting to be filled. The candle is getting low. You might need to light a fresh one soon, but not yet. For now, there is just enough light, just enough silence, just enough ink. You pick up the pen, you adjust your grip, you find the rhythm again. Scritch, dip, scritch. The night goes on. The words flow, and the world sleeps around you, heavy and peaceful, while you scratch your way into history. The candle you have been relying on is dying. It has become a puddle of warm wax with a drowning wick, the flame gasping for air, turning blue, then orange, then nothing. A wisp of grey smoke rises, curling into the air. The smell of extinguished wick, acrid and burnt, slices through the sweet honey scent of the beeswax. For a moment, you're in total darkness. Don't panic. You know this room better than you know the face of your own mother. Your hand moves instinctively to the right, feeling for the small bronze box on the table. Inside are the flints and a bit of dry tinder, but you don't need them. You have a backup lamp, a small terracotta oil lamp sitting on the floor, burning a low safety flame. You lift it up. The shadows in the room swing wildly, transforming the shelves of scrolls into a looming canyon of cedar. You light a fresh candle. The light returns, steady and golden. The world is reassembled. You sigh and sit back down. The interruption has broken your flow. That trance-like state where the hand moves without the brain is gone, and now you're acutely aware of your body, specifically your lower back. The Roman stool, the cellar, has no backrest. It is a triumph of aesthetic design over human comfort. It forces you to use your own muscles to stay upright, and after 6 hours your muscles are staging a rebellion. You press your knuckles into your spine, arching backward, staring up at the ceiling. The ceiling is painted with stars, little gold stars on a field of deep blue. It's supposed to look like the night sky, a philosophical reminder that the universe is vast and we are small. Right now, it just reminds you that the real night sky outside is moving towards morning and you are still here. You look at the ink pot again. The atramentum has thickened while you were changing the candle. It's developing a skin on top like cold soup. You can't write with this. If you try, the letters will crack as they dry, flaking off the page like dead skin. The master would have a fit. Immortality requires durability, he would say. You grab the small jug of water that was meant for you to drink, but sacrifice is part of the job, and pour a few drops into the pot. You pick up a small stirring stick, stained black from years of use. You stir. Clink, clink, clink. The sound of the wood hitting the clay pot is sharp in the silence. You watch the swirl. The soot, the gum, the water. It's a primordial soup. You're a chemist as much as a writer. The recipe for this ink is older than the villa, older than Rome. It's the same stuff the Egyptians used to tally their grain. There is comfort in that. You are doing exactly what men like you have done for thousands of years. Stirring the black water, preparing to capture a thought. You test the consistency. You dip the reed pen and make a small mark on a scrap piece of pottery you keep for this purpose. An ostrakon. The line is smooth, dark and glossy. Perfect. Back to the scroll. You are no longer writing the letter. That is finished, rolled and sealed with a blob of wax the colour of dried blood. You press the master's signet ring into it yourself. Now, you have moved on to the second task of the night, inventory. If the letter was tedious, the inventory is a test of the soul. The master wants a catalogue of his wine cellar. He is convinced the steward is stealing from him. He probably is. Everyone steals a little. It's the only way to survive the inflation. So you have a wax tablet with the steward's rough notes on your left and the pristine papyrus on your right. Your job is to translate the steward's messy chicken scratch handwriting into elegant permanent Latin. Amphoria Falernian wine, 20, you write? Falernian, the good stuff, a wine that tastes like amber and fire. You've tasted it once when a jar broke in the storeroom and the slaves were allowed to lick the spills off their fingers before mopping it up. You swallow, your throat dry. Amphorae of local red, sour, 50. You write that down, acetum, vinegar, basically. That's what you get to drink on feast days. The list goes on. Jars of garum, fish sauce. Sacks of grain. Bottles of olive oil from Baetica. It is a list of wealth. You're cataloguing another man's abundance while your own stomach feels hollow. But there is a rhythm to the list that is soothing. Item, number. Item number. It requires less brain power than the philosophy or the letters. You don't have to conjugate verbs or worry about the rhetoric, you just have to count. As you write 100 jars of preserved figs, you hear a noise. Your hand freezes. The pen hovers over the paper. Scritch scratch! It's not you. It's coming from the corner near the bust of Plato. You squint into the gloom. A shadow moves. A tiny grey shape darts along the baseboard and vanishes behind a shelf of Greek tragedies. A mouse. You relax. Hello, little colleague. The mouse is a frequent visitor. He likes the taste of the glue used to bind the scrolls. You really should set a trap or bring in the barn cat, but you won't. The mouse is company. He is the only other living thing awake in this stone mausoleum. As long as he eats the bad poetry and leaves the history alone, you have a truce. Eat the speeches of Cicero, you whisper to the corner. Nobody reads those anyway. You return to the figs. The air is getting colder. The heat from the day has completely leached out of the stone walls. This villa has a Hypocaust system, underfloor heating, but not in the library. The master believes that cold air keeps the mind sharp, or maybe he's just cheap. You pull your knees up to your chest, balancing precariously on the stool, trying to create a ball of warmth. You pull the sleeves of your tunic down over your hands, leaving only the fingers exposed to hold the pen. Your fingers are stiff, you have to stop every few lines to blow on them. The warm breath feels like heaven, but it fades in seconds. You flex your hand, you can feel the beginning of a cramp in your thumb. The scribe's pinch. Old scribes have hands that look like bird claws, permanently curled. You rub your thumb joint. It pops. You decide to stand up again. You need to get the blood moving. You walk around the small room. You trail your hand along the spines of the scrolls. You know exactly where everything is. The organisation is a map of the master's mind. Here, at eye level, are the things he wants people to see him reading. Philosophy, rhetoric, history, down low near the floor are the things he actually reads. Erotic poetry, dirty jokes, guides on how to breed hunting dogs. You pause at a shelf of maps. You pull one out gently. It's a map of the empire. You unroll a few inches. The parchment is thick and creamy. There it is, Mare Nostrum, our sea, the Mediterranean. It looks like a blue puddle surrounded by the jagged teeth of land. You trace the coastline with a shivering finger. Here is Rome. Here is this villa. And way over here, across the water and the sand, is Egypt. And further east, the lands of silk. And north, the misty island of Britannia, where they say men paint themselves blue and it rains mud. Have you ever been there? No. You've never been further than the market town 10 miles down the road. But in this room, you have travelled everywhere. You know the distance from Rome to Carthage. You know the trade winds. You know the names of the tribes in Germania. You are a prisoner who holds the keys to the world, but only in your head. You roll the map back up, careful, don't crease it. You walk back to the desk. The candle has stopped sputtering and is burning with a tall, steady flame. It creates a pool of light on the desk that looks like a stage. And you are the actor. The play is called The Man Who Copied. You sit. The wood of the stool is cold against your legs. You pick up the pen. The inventory is finished. You sprinkle the sand, hiss, you shake it off into a waste bin, you roll the scroll, you tie the little leather thong around it. You pick up a wooden tag, dip a smaller brush in red ink and write, Inventarium Cellar Year of the Consuls. Done. Now what? The sun is still hours away. The master left a third task. Of course he did. He always leaves more work than time. Copy the speech, he said. The one by Cato, the one about the luxury of women. You groan inwardly. Cato the Elder, the most boring man who ever lived. He hated everything fun. He hated Greek culture. He hated fancy clothes. He probably hated puppies. And you have to copy his speech about why women shouldn't be allowed to wear multicoloured dresses. You pull a fresh roll of papyrus from the stack. This one is pristine. It smells like the river. It's a blank slate. There is something terrifying and beautiful about a blank page. It's perfect. You're about to ruin it with ink. You're about to impose Cato's grumpy thoughts onto this innocent reed paper. You dip the pen, you begin. If Romans, every one of us, had set himself to maintain the rights and dignity of the husband, your handwriting shifts slightly. You adopt a more severe style for Cato. Sharper angles, less flourish. The handwriting must match the voice of the author. That is the mark of a professional. When you copy a poem, your letters dance. When you copy a law, your letters march like soldiers. For Cato, your letters scowl. Your eyelids are getting heavy, physically heavy. It feels like someone has glued small lead weights to your lashes. You blink and for a second the eyelids stick together. You force them open. The text is starting to swim. The lines of black ink are vibrating. You shake your head violently, slap. You slap your own cheek. Lightly, but enough to sting. Wake up. If you fall asleep and drool on the papyrus, it's coming out of your food allowance. You look at the water clock, the clepsydra in the corner. It's a simple clay vessel with a tiny hole in the bottom, dripping into a marked bowl below. The water level has risen to the line that marks the end of the fourth watch. The Gallicinium, the time of the cockcrow, but the rooster hasn't crowed yet. That lazy bird is still asleep. You are more diligent than the rooster. You realise you are thirsty. Not for wine, but for water. You take a sip from the jug on the desk. It's tepid and tastes slightly of the clay pot, but it washes the dust of the papyrus from your throat. You find yourself staring at the flame of the candle again. It's hypnotic. The blue centre, the yellow halo. You wonder where the wax goes. It turns into light, matter into energy. It sacrifices itself so you can see. There's a metaphor there, but you're too tired to chase it. The silence of the house changes. It's no longer the deep, dead silence of the middle of the night. It's the expectant silence of the pre-dawn. The air feels different. The pressure changes. Outside the wind picks up. You hear the branches of the cypress trees brushing against the roof tiles. Scrape, scrape, like a giant pen writing on the sky. You go back to Cato. Luxury will trope. You write the word luxuria. It's a bad word to Cato, but to you, luxury is a cushion. Luxury is a nap. Luxury is not having to write the letter X again, which is tricky because you have to cross the lines perfectly in the middle. You make a mistake. You curse softly. By Hercule. You wrote luxura instead of luxuria. You missed the I. You were rushing. You were thinking about the cushion. Now you have to fix it. You can't just cross it out. This is a formal copy. You pick up the scraping knife. It's a small curved blade, razor sharp. You gently, very gently scrape the top layer of the papyrus fibres where the mistake is. You peel away the ink. It leaves a rough patch, a ghost of the word. You take a smooth piece of ivory, a burnisher, and rub the rough patch until the fibres mash back down and become somewhat smooth again. It's not perfect, but it will pass. You blow the papyrus dust away, you dip the pen, you write the I, you write the A, luxuria. Crisis averted, but your heart is beating a little faster. The fear of the mistake woke you up. Adrenaline is a better fuel than coffee, which tragically won't be discovered for another 1,000 years or so. You check the ink on your fingers. You have a smudge on your middle knuckle. You rub it. It doesn't come off. You are branded. You are a man of letters, quite literally. The room feels smaller now. The darkness outside the window seems to be pressing against the shutters, trying to get in. But inside you have built a fortress of words. You have catalogued the wine. You have sent the letter. You are preserving the grumpy speeches. You're holding the civilization together, one line at a time. You lean forward, your nose just inches from the paper, smelling the dry, organic scent. It smells like the marshes. It smells like the sun. You are tired. So tired. But the pen must move. The scratching sound resumes, slower now, more deliberate. Scritch, scratch, scritch. It is the heartbeat of the library. And you are the heart. The window has changed. For the last 6 hours, the crack in the shutter has been a line of absolute, uncompromising black. But now, if you look closely, and your eyes are strained enough that you're looking closely at everything, the black has softened. It has faded into a deep, bruised charcoal. It is the colour of old iron. It is the false dawn, that deceptive hour when the night has technically ended, but the day has not yet gathered the courage to begin. You stop writing. You have reached the bottom of the column on the Cato scroll. There is no more room. You could glue another sheet of papyrus to the end to extend it, but your glue pot is cold and gummy, and frankly, you don't think the world needs any more of Cato's opinions tonight. You lift the pen, you hold it in the air for a moment, like a conductor finishing a symphony. Then you lower it. Clack! It hits the wooden desk. The sound is final. The work is done. Release the breath you didn't know you were holding. Whoosh! Your body begins to register that the ordeal is over, and immediately it starts to complain. Your neck is a solid block of tension. If you turn your head, you can hear the vertebrae grinding against each other like millstones. You slowly rotate your shoulders. 1, 2, 3. It feels good, in a painful sort of way. Now begins the ritual of closing down. This is just as important as the writing itself. A messy scribe is a punished scribe. First, the ink. You pick up the stopper for the ink pot, a small cork carved from the bark of a cork oak tree. You press it firmly into the mouth of the clay jar. You give it a little twist to ensure the seal is airtight. Ink is precious. If it dries out, you have to grind more soot, and you're far too tired for grinding. Next, the pen. You can't leave the ink on the nib. It will harden and rot the reed. You pick up a small piece of natural sponge, dampened slightly from the water jug. You wipe the tip of the reed. The black stain transfers from the wood to the sponge. You wipe it again and again, until the reed is pale brown once more. You inspect the tip. Is it still sharp? Or did Cato dull it? It looks okay. It will survive until tomorrow evening. You place the pen in its wooden case, a long, slender box that looks like a coffin for a snake. Now the scrolls, this is the delicate part. The inventory list is already dry. You roll it up tight, you tie the string. The Cato speech is still a bit fresh. You don't dare roll it yet. You leave it unrolled on the desk, weighing down the corners with small lead weights shaped like dolphins. The dolphins look cheerful. You envy them. They will hold the paper while you go to sleep. You look around the room. The shadows are retreating. The candlelight, which seemed so bright and vital an hour ago, now looks sickly and yellow against the grey light creeping in from outside. The magic of the library is fading. It's turning back into just a room with shelves. And then you hear it. Thump, thump, thump. It is distant, coming from the other side of the villa, perhaps from the slave quarters near the kitchen. It is the sound of wood being chopped. Someone is waking up the fires. Then the scrape of a broom on the stone. Swish, swish. The household is stirring. The giant machine that is Roman villa is booting up. You feel a strange sense of superiority. These people, the cooks, the cleaners, the stable boys, they are just starting their day. They are waking up to cold floors and groggy minds. But you have conquered the night. You have lived a whole lifetime of words while they were drooling on their straw mats. You are the veteran. They are the recruits. But you are also the one who is about to crash. You stand up. Oh, the legs. They are stiff, heavy pillars. The blood rushes back down into your feet, prickling like 1,000 tiny needles. You grab the edge of the desk to steady yourself. You take a step. Then another. You walk like an old man, shuffling towards the window. You undo the latch of the shutter. It's a simple iron hook. Click. You push the wood open. The cool air hits you like a bucket of water. It is fresh, damp, and smells intensely of the morning. It smells of dew-soaked grass, of cypress resin, and, faintly, of manure from the farms down in the valley. It is the smell of reality. You lean out. The sky is a gradient of wonder. In the east, behind the silhouette of the Alban Hills, there is a band of pale lemon light. Above that, a wash of teal, fading into the deep indigo where a few stubborn stars are still clinging on. The morning star, Venus, is blazing bright, hanging there like a lantern. The birds are awake, not the rooster yet, he is still hitting the snooze button, but the little birds, the sparrows in the ivy, the swallows under the eaves. They are chirping tentatively, peep, peep. They are discussing the weather. They are discussing worms. They are noisy. You want to shush them. Quiet, you think. Some of us are trying to finish a shift. You look down into the peristyle garden. It is a square of grey mist. The fountain in the centre is just a murmur. You can see the statues of the nymphs standing in the flower beds. In the half-light they look like ghosts. A cat, a real one, not your mouse friend, is stretching on the garden wall, arching its back just like you did. It yawns, showing a pink mouth. You feel a kinship with the cat. Both of you are creatures of the twilight. You pull the shutter closed, but not all the way. You leave it ajar to let the fresh air flush out the smell of stale wax and sweat. You turn back to the room. It needs to be perfect for the master. He will come in here around the 3rd hour after he has had his morning massage and his breakfast. He will sweep in with his toga draped just so, smelling of scented oil. He will look at the scrolls you left. He will nod. He won't say thank you. He will say, "Is the inventory done? Good. Now, about that letter to the Senate." You arrange the desk. You place the finished letter in the centre, prominently displayed. You move the ink pot to the side. You sweep the dusting sand off the wood with a hare's foot, a lucky charm and a cleaning tool in one. There, a tableau of productivity. Your stomach gives a loud, demanding growl. It is time for gentaculum, breakfast, or for you, dinner. What will it be today? Leftover porridge, a piece of hard cheese. If you're lucky, the cook might give you a piece of bread dipped in wine. The thought of the warm, yeasty bread makes your mouth water. You can almost taste the coarse grains of the wheat. You pick up the oil lamp from the floor. You blow out the candle on the desk. Puff. The room plunges into grey twilight. The golden warmth is gone. Now it is just a workspace. You walk towards the door. The leather sandals slap softly against the mosaic floor. You pause at the threshold. You look back at the shelves one last time. The scrolls are sleeping. Thousands of words, thousands of thoughts, all rolled up and tucked away in their cedar beds. You have added a few more to the collection tonight. You have done your part. You are the keeper of the flame, even if the flame is just a reed pen and a pot of soot. You step out into the hallway. The villa is waking up fast now. You hear a door slam. You hear a voice shouting, "Where is the water bucket?" You hear the heavy footsteps of a slave carrying wood. You are a ghost moving upstream. Everyone is rushing towards the day. You are drifting towards the night. You walk down the corridor, passing the frescoes of hunting scenes. The painted dogs seem to be running alongside you. You reach the kitchen. The warmth hits you first, a wall of heat from the great ovens. The kitchen is a cavern of noise and activity. The cook is there, a large man with flour on his arms, shouting orders at a scullery maid. He sees you. He stops shouting. He knows the look in your eyes, the 1,000-yard stare of the night scribe. He nods. He doesn't smile, but he reaches for a basket. He tosses you a small, round loaf of bread. It is still warm. You catch it. It feels like a living thing in your cold hands. "Wine?" he grunts. You nod. He points to a jug by the door. You pour yourself a small cup. It's the cheap stuff, watered down, but it's liquid. You take your prizes, the bread and the wine, and you retreat. You don't eat in the kitchen. It's too loud. You go to your spot. Your room is hardly a room. It is a niche under the stairs, partitioned off by a curtain, but it is yours. It has a straw mattress. It has a wool blanket. It has a small shelf where you keep your own secret stash of papyrus scraps, the ones you use to write your own thoughts, not the master's. You sit on the mattress. You tear a chunk off the bread. The crust cracks. Steam rises. You put it in your mouth. Oh, the gods! It is simple. Flour, water, salt, yeast. But at this moment it is the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. It tastes of labour. It tastes of reward. You chew slowly, letting the carbohydrates settle your jittery stomach. You take a sip of the wine. The sourness cuts through the dust in your throat. You eat in silence, listening to the house rumble above you. The master's footsteps are audible now. He sleeps on the 2nd floor. Thump thump, he is up. The day has officially begun. But not for you. You finish the bread, you drain the cup, you brush the crumbs off your tunic. You lie down, the straw mattress is lumpy, poking you in the ribs. You don't care. To your exhausted body, it feels like a cloud plucked from Olympus. You pull the rough wool blanket up to your chin. It smells of sheep, but it is warm. You close your eyes. Behind your eyelids, you still see lines of text. Vita, Eternitas, Luxuria. They float in the darkness, glowing like neon. Your brain is trying to process the night's work. You take a deep breath, you visualize the library, you visualize the candle flame, you visualize blowing it out. The text fades. The noise of the house becomes a rhythmic hum, like the sound of the ocean, pushes you away from the shore of consciousness. You are drifting. The last thing you hear, finally, is the rooster. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Do.
It is recompense.
Herder's pathetic crow. The bird sounds tired too. You're late, you think, a small smile touching your lips. And then, the history lesson is over. The scribe sleeps, you are asleep. The heavy wool blanket is no longer itchy, it has become a cocoon. The sounds of the Roman villa, the shouting cook, the marching master, the barking dogs have faded away. They are distant echoes, muffled by the thick velvet curtain of slumber. In this space, time dissolves. You are no longer a tired man in a drafty room. You are weightless. You are drifting. And as you drift, your mind grabs onto the last thing you touched before you closed your eyes. The papyrus. The texture of the paper is still on your fingertips. That dry, fibrous grid. And suddenly, you are not holding the paper. You are in the paper. You are travelling back through the ink, back through the layers of glue, back across the sea to the place where the paper was born. The air changes. The smell of cold stone and beeswax vanishes. Instead, you smell mud. Rich, fertile, ancient mud. You smell water. Miles and miles of it. And you feel heat. Not the warmth of a fire, but the heavy golden blanket of the sun. Open your mind's eye. You are standing on the banks of the Nile. It is the delta, the endless green fan where the great river meets the sea. The sky here is different. It is not the soft blue of Italy. It is a fierce, bright azure, sharp and endless. The sun is a white disk hammering down on the world, baking the clay, warming the blood. Look at the water. It is slow, brown and green and lazy. It moves with a massive silent power, carrying the silt that feeds the empire. Dragonflies with wings like spun glass are hovering over the surface. A crocodile slides off a mud bank with a soft splash, disappearing into the cool depths. And there, rising from the shallows like an army of spears, is the papyrus. Cyprus papyrus. It is a forest of green. The stalks are tall, taller than a man, taller than two men. They are triangular in shape, a detail you never noticed when it was just a flat sheet on your desk. They sway gently in the breeze coming off the desert. Swish, swish. It is a dry, whispering sound, like thousands of people saying hush at the same time. At the top of each stalk there is a starburst of feathery tufts exploding like green fireworks against the blue sky. You watch the harvesters. They are men with skin the colour of deep bronze, glistening with sweat. They move with a slow, practised rhythm. They are not rushing. The Nile does not rush, and neither do they. They wade into the water. It comes up to their waists. They hold curved knives. Slice. The sound is wet and crisp. The knife cuts through the thick base of the stalk. The giant reed falls. The man catches it, cradling it like a child. He lays it on a small wooden boat. Slice, splash, thud. It is a rhythm. It is music. You watch them work for what feels like hours. There is no urgency here. Only the cycle of the harvest. The boat fills up with the green logs. Now follow the boat. It drifts down a small canal pushed by a single pole. The water laps against the wood. Lap, lap, lap. You arrive at the workshop. It is a simple shelter, a roof of palm fronds held up by poles, casting a striped shade on the ground. The air here smells of cut grass and sweet sap. Sit down in the shade. Watch the transformation. This is where the magic happens. This is where a weed becomes a page of history. A worker takes a stalk. He sits cross-legged on the ground. He holds a sharp knife. With one fluid motion, he peels away the green outer rind. He strips it off like the skin of a banana. The green is discarded. It's too tough. What remains is the heart of the plant. The pith. It is white, moist and spongy. It looks like the flesh of an apple. It is full of sticky, sweet juice. The worker slices the white pith into long, thin strips. He is a master of thickness. Every strip is exactly the same. Translucent ribbons of plant matter. They pile up next to him, a mound of white noodles. Now comes the weaving. He takes a flat stone table wet with Nile water. He lays the strips down side by side vertically. They overlap just a tiny bit. He's building a floor of fibres. Then he takes more strips and lays them horizontally across the first layer. A grid, a lattice, warp and weft, but without a loom. He doesn't use glue. There is no pot of paste here. The glue is in the plant itself. The sugary sap of the Nile reed is the binding agent. It is nature holding itself together. Now listen. Tap, tap, tap. He picks up a wooden mallet. It is round and smooth from years of use. He begins to beat the sheet. Thump, thump, thump. He is not hitting it hard. He's not angry. He is massaging the fibres. He is telling them to merge. He starts in the centre and spirals outward. Thump, thump, thump. The two layers are being crushed into one. The sap is released, fusing the cells together. The white strips lose their individuality and become a single unified object. You feel your own heart rate slowing down to match the hammer. There is something deeply satisfying about watching things being made by hand. No machines, no gears, just wood, water, plant and muscle. Once the sheet is hammered flat, it is pressed. They place a heavy stone on top of it, and then they wait. Patience. That is the lesson of the papyrus. You cannot hurry the drying. It must sit in the sun. It must bake. The Egyptian sun does the work now. It pulls the moisture out, turning the white pith into a golden beige. It cures the sap into a natural polymer. Imagine you are the sheet of paper. You are lying under the weight of the stone, warm and compressed. You are drying out. You are becoming strong. You are becoming a vessel for words. Days pass in the dream. The sun rises and sets. The sheet is finished. But it is still rough. It feels like fuzzy wool. It needs one last touch. A polisher picks it up. He holds a smooth piece of ivory, a tusk of a hippo or an elephant, or sometimes a large smooth seashell from the Red Sea. He rubs the surface of the paper. Rub, rub. The sound is like sand shifting in the wind. He burns the surface, smoothing down all the tiny fibres, making it glassy and slick. This is for you. He is doing this so your reed pen will glide. He is doing this so you won't have to struggle with bumps in the night. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know that in 1,000 years a Roman slave will be cursing a mistake on this very sheet. But he polishes it anyway. He takes pride in the smoothness. The sheet is trimmed. The edges are cut square. It is glued to 20 other sheets to make a long roll of volumen. It is rolled up, tied with a string and placed in a crate. And then the journey begins. Watch the crate. It is loaded onto a barge. It floats down the Nile to Alexandria, the city of the Great Lighthouse. It is loaded onto a merchant ship, a heavy grain freighter bound for Ostia, the port of Rome. You are on the ship now. You can feel the sway of the Mediterranean, up and down, up and down. The timber creaks, the wind snaps in the sails. The crate of papyrus sits in the dark hold, smelling of Egypt, waiting for its destiny. It crosses the sea. It survives storms. It survives pirates. It arrives in the bustling, noisy, smelly port of Rome. It is carried on the back of a donkey up the Via Appia. It is sold in a market stall near the Forum. Your master buys it. He haggles over the price, of course. He complains that the quality isn't what it used to be. And finally it ends up on your desk. The dream circles back. You are seeing the connection. The paper is not just a thing, it is a journey. It is sunlight from Egypt trapped in a grid of fibres. When you write on it, you are writing on the sun. The scene in the delta begins to fade. The bright white sun softens. The green reeds blur. The rhythmic thump-thump of the mallet slows down, transforming into the sound of your own heartbeat in your ears. You are back in your body, but you are deeper in sleep now. The visualization has relaxed you. The tension in your scribe's pinch hand has uncoiled. The imaginary warmth of the Egyptian sun lingers in your bones, chasing away the damp chill of the niche under the stairs. You turn over on the straw mattress. The rustle of the straw sounds like the rustle of the reeds in the wind. Swish. You are safe. The paper is made. The words are written. The inventory is done. There is nothing left to do but drift. The River Nile flows on, endless and quiet, carrying you further and further away from Cato and the master and the wine cellar. Down, down, downstream, into the delta of dreams. The Nile fades. The green papyrus stalks dissolve into the darkness behind your eyelids. The rhythmic thumping of the mallet turns into something else. It becomes a buzz, a high-pitched, electric, relentless buzz. Welcome back to Italy, welcome to the 6th hour. You shift on your straw mattress. You're half awake, floating in that sticky, groggy limbo between deep sleep and consciousness. You don't open your eyes, you don't have to. The heat tells you exactly what time it is. It is noon, or, as the Romans call it, merides, the midpoint. The sun has climbed to the very top of the sky and is currently sitting there, dangling its legs, staring down at the villa with an unblinking, fiery eye. The air in your little niche under the stairs has changed. The crisp coolness of the pre-dawn is a distant memory. The air is now thick, heavy and still. It feels like a warm, wet wool blanket has been draped over your face. You can taste the dust. You can smell the dry straw of your bed baking slightly in the ambient heat. But you are not getting up. Oh no. This is the one civilized thing the Romans have truly perfected. Forget the aqueducts, forget the roads, forget the legions. The greatest invention of the empire is the meridiatio, the siesta, the midday nap. At this hour, the entire world stops. The Senate closes. The courts are empty, the shops shut their wooden shutters. Even the wars probably take a break, with barbarians and legionaries alike finding a nice shady tree to lean against. Let's take a spirit walk through the villa, while your physical body stays here, sweating gently on the straw. Let's drift through the house of the sleeping. The silence of the noon hour is different from the silence of the night. The night silence is empty. It's a void. The noon silence is full. It is heavy. It presses down on the roof tiles. It is a silence made of heat. The only sound, the soundtrack to this part of the movie, is the cicadas. They're in the cypress trees, in the olive groves, in the ornamental bushes of the garden. Millions of them. They're screaming for a mate, but to us it sounds like the static of the universe. Chi-chi, chi-chi. It is a wall of sound so constant that after a few minutes your brain stops hearing it as noise and accepts it as silence. It is hypnotic. It drills into the skull and numbs the thoughts. We float into the atrium, the main hall. The skylight in the roof, the compluvium, is letting in a square shaft of sunlight so bright it looks solid. You could almost walk on it. Dust motes are dancing in the beam, swirling in slow motion, trapped in the thermal currents. Below, the impluvium, the shallow pool for catching rainwater, is perfectly still. The water is tepid. A single fly buzzes lazily over the surface, looking for a place to land. But even the fly seems to lack energy. It lands on the nose of a bronze statue of a faun. The faun doesn't mind. The faun is metal. He's the only one not sweating. The floor tiles are warm. If you walked across them barefoot now, they would feel like fresh toast. The house smells of hot wax from the polished furniture, dried herbs hanging in the pantry, and a faint lingering scent of garlic from the slave's lunch. Let's peek into the tablinum, the master's office. Empty. The scrolls are rolled up, the wax tablets are stacked. The chair is vacant. The business of the empire is on hold. A beam of light hits the mosaic floor, illuminating a scene of Alexander the Great fighting a lion. Right now, both Alexander and the lion look like they would prefer a nap. Now the peristyle, the inner garden. This is usually the jewel of the house, lush and green. But under the noon sun, the colours are bleached out. The green leaves of the acanthus look grey and dusty. The roses are drooping, heads bowed, praying for the evening watering can. The shadows are short, hiding directly under the objects that cast them. There is no place to hide. And there, lying in the shade of a colonnade, is the dog. Molossus, the guard dog. A massive beast with a spiked collar, bred to fight wolves and scare away thieves. Look at him now. He is flat on his side, legs splayed out stiffly as if he's been dropped from a height. His tongue is lolling out onto the pavement, a long pink ribbon. His sides heave with shallow, rapid breaths. Huff, huff, huff. Every now and then his paw twitches. He is dreaming of chasing a rabbit that is running very, very slowly. Even the dream rabbits are tired today. We move deeper into the private quarters. The the cubiculum, the bedroom. The heavy curtains are drawn tight to block out the sun, creating a dim amber gloom. It is cooler here, but the air is stale. And there is the master. The man who owns your time, your work, and your writing hand. The man who terrified you with his demands for Cato's speeches. He is lying on his back on a bed stuffed with feathers. His mouth is open, and he is making a sound that definitely does not command respect. Snk. A snore. A wet, rattling, undignified snore. His toga is bunched up around his waist. He has kicked off his blanket. A trickle of sweat runs down his bald spot. It's hard to be afraid of a man who snores like a broken water pump. This is the great equalizer of history. Emperors, generals, philosophers, fools. At the 6th hour on a hot day, everyone looks foolish. Everyone is just a biological machine trying to cool down. You feel a strange affection for him in this moment. Not because he is kind, but because he is asleep. And a sleeping master is a harmless master. For the next 2 hours you are free. You are the king of your own dreams. We float back to the kitchen. The fire in the great hearth has been allowed to die down to embers. No one is crazy enough to cook over a roaring fire at noon. The heat in here is intense, smelling of wood smoke and old grease. The cook is sitting on a stool leaning back against the wall, arms crossed over his large belly. His chin is on his chest. He is fast asleep. A scullery boy is curled up under the table, using a sack of flour as a pillow. It is a tableau of exhaustion. The morning shift was brutal. The chopping, the grinding, the hauling of water. They have earned this collapse. The whole house is a battery that has run out of charge and is plugged into the socket of the siesta to recharge for the evening. We drift back to you, to the niche under the stairs. You stir again. The heat is making you thirsty. You open your eyes, just a slit. The light leaking through the curtain is blindingly white. It hurts. You close them immediately. You realise you are thirsty, but the water jug is 3 feet away. Is it worth it? You debate this in your mind. To move is to sweat. To sweat is to be uncomfortable. Therefore, to move is illogical. You decide to stay thirsty. It is a calculated decision, a stoic decision. Seneca would be proud or maybe just lazy. You become aware of your own body. Your tunic is damp, sticking to your back. You kick off the wool blanket completely. You spread your arms out, trying to maximize your surface area, trying to find a cool patch of straw. There isn't one. The whole world is body temperature. But there is a sweetness to this lethargy. The Italians call it dolce far niente, the sweetness of doing nothing. You don't have to write, you don't have to think, you don't have to be smart, you just have to exist. You're a lizard on a rock. You're a cactus in the desert. You're part of the landscape. Your mind begins to wander again. It doesn't go to Egypt this time. It stays here, but it drifts into the microscopic details. You listen to the house settling. Creak. That's the wooden beam in the ceiling expanding in the heat. Tick. That's the cooling embers in the kitchen. Buzz. That's a fly exploring your ear. You twitch your ear muscle. The fly leaves. A small victory. You think about the evening to come. When the sun finally gives up and sinks behind the hills, the world will wake up again. The slaves will light the lamps. The master will demand his dinner. There will be guests, loud men in clean togas talking about politics. You might be called to read poetry to them while they eat. You will have to stand in the corner holding the scroll, reading about heroes and gods while they chew on roast pork. But that is hours away. That belongs to the future you. The current you has no responsibilities. The cicadas are getting louder. Re. It's an oscillating rhythm now. It rises and falls like a wave. It feels like the heat itself is singing. You focus on that sound, you let it fill your head, pushing out any remaining thoughts about Cato or spelling mistakes. It washes over you, scrubbing your mind clean. You feel heavy. Gravity seems to have doubled. You're sinking into the mattress, deeper, deeper. The line between you and the room blurs. You are the room. You are the heat. You are the silence. Sleep comes again. Not the deep, coma-like sleep of the night, but the shallow, vivid sleep of the afternoon. A sleep filled with strange, fragmented images. A sleep where you can hear the real world, but you can't participate in it. A door opens somewhere, footsteps, soft, bare feet, probably a maid going to fetch water. The sound is comforting. Someone else is alive, but they don't bother you. You are invisible under your stares. You drift. The sun moves a fraction of an inch across the sky. The shadow in the peristyle lengthens by a millimetre. The Empire ages by another minute. And you, the sleepless historian subject, finally find some peace in the heart of the furnace. Rest now. The afternoon is long, the ink is dry, the world is on pause, the nap is over. It ends not with a bang, but with a stiff neck. You peel yourself off the straw mattress. There is a moment of disorientation, the "where am I and what century is this" feeling. You touch your cheek. You can feel the intricate map of straw indented into your skin, a temporary tattoo of your bedding. The villa is awake again. The heavy, suffocating blanket of noon has lifted. The sun has begun its slide down the western slope of the sky, and the light is turning from blinding white to a rich, syrupy gold. The shadows are stretching out, yawning, reclaiming the floors. You hear water, not the distant trickle of the garden fountain, but a closer, heavier sound. Splash, echo, drip. Your presence is required in the balnier, the private bath suite. The master is awake, and like any civilized Roman, he cannot possibly face the evening's politics without boiling himself like a lobster first. You are not joining him in the tub, Jupiter forbid, but you are needed to check the supplies, the towels, the oils, the strigils. You walk down the corridor. You can feel the change in humidity before you even reach the door. The air gets thicker. It smells of damp stone, wood smoke from the furnace, and something floral, lavender perhaps, or rosemary. You push open the heavy wooden door and step into the apoditerium, the changing room. It is quiet here, a hushed, reverent silence. The bathhouse is like a temple, but instead of worshipping gods, we are worshipping plumbing. The room is lined with small niches for clothes. It is cool in here. The floor is a mosaic of sea creatures, dolphins, octopuses, fish with surprised expressions. You walk across a tiled squid. Your sandals make a sharp clack-clack sound that bounces off the vaulted ceiling. Clack, 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 clack. The acoustics in a Roman bath are legendary. You could whisper a secret in one corner and have it heard in the other. Or more likely, you could drop a metal bucket and deafen everyone for a week. You tread carefully. You move through to the tepidarium, the warm room. This is the airlock, the transition zone. There is no water here, just warm air. The heat radiates from the floor. You can feel it through the soles of your sandals. Let's pause to appreciate the engineering. Under your feet, beneath the beautiful mosaic of a triton blowing a conch shell, there is a hellscape. A fire is roaring in a furnace room outside, tended by slaves who are definitely not having a relaxing time. The hot air from that fire is channeled under this floor, suspended on pillars of brick, the Hypocaust. You're walking on top of a chimney. It is genius. It is warm. It is also terrifying if you think about it too much. But you don't think about it. You just enjoy the gentle warmth wrapping around your ankles. You check the shelf. The oils are there. Small glass bottles filled with golden liquid. Olive oil mostly. The Romans don't have soap. Soap is for barbarians, and it works quite well actually, but don't tell the master. The master will slather himself in oil and then scrape it off. It sounds painful. It is painful, but it is civilized. You pick up a strigil. It's a curved bronze tool shaped like a sickle. You run your thumb along the edge. Dull. Good. You don't want to accidentally filly the master while scraping the dirt off his back. You place it back on the marble bench. Clink. Now the main event. You push the heavy bronze door leading to the caldarium, the hot room. Whoosh! A wall of steam hits you. It's visible, swirling in thick white clouds. The air is hot, heavy and wet. It instantly condenses on your skin. Your tunic feels clammy within seconds. You can barely see the other side of the room. It's a misty dreamscape. In the centre is the hot plunge bath, the alveus. You walk to the edge. The water is steaming. It is dark, deep and still. You crouch down. You need to test the temperature. If it's too cold, you'll be whipped. If it's too hot, the master will be boiled, and then who will pay you? It's a delicate balance. You dip your hand in. Plip! The water is hot, aggressively hot. It stings your fingers for a second, then settles into a deep, penetrating heat that seems to melt the bones. It's perfect. You swirl your hand. The water moves like silk. Heavy, oily. Swish, swirble, lap. The sound of the water lapping against the marble rim is incredibly soothing. It is the sound of total containment. You look up at the ceiling. It is domed, with a small circular opening at the top, an oculus. A beam of sunlight cuts through the steam like a lightsaber. You can see the steam swirling in the light, turbulent and chaotic, rising up to escape into the sky. It's mesmerizing. You could watch the physics of the steam for hours. Condensation has gathered on the ceiling. It forms heavy droplets. You watch one. It grows, it wobbles, it falls. Drip. It hits the water surface. Ploop. Ripples expand outward, perfect concentric circles bouncing off the sides of the bath. You stand up and wipe your wet hand on your tunic. The heat is getting to you. It makes you feel slow, drowsy. It loosens the muscles. You can understand why the master spends hours here. It's a womb of stone and water. You retreat, back through the tepidarium, back to the frigidarium, the cold room. This is the shock to the system. The room is unheated. In the centre is a circular pool of cold water. You approach it. The water here looks different. It is clear, bright, and looks sharp. It looks like liquid glass. You don't touch it. Just looking at it makes you shiver after the heat of the caldarium. This is where you close the pores. This is where you remember you are alive. The acoustics here are even sharper. A tap drips from a bronze lion's mouth. Drip, drip, drip. It is a metronome. It counts the seconds of the afternoon. You check the towels. They are piled high on a cedar chest. Thick, rough linen. They smell of the sun-dried herbs they were stored with. You straighten the pile. Symmetry is important. You are alone in this echo chamber. It feels grand. For a moment, you are the master of the bath. You imagine sitting in that cold pool, washing away the ink stains, washing away the dust of the papyrus. You imagine floating on your back, staring up at the painted ceiling, thinking about absolutely nothing. But you are not the master. You are the scenery. You hear voices in the hallway. Sandals slapping on stone. Laughter. The master is coming, and he has brought a guest. A senator, by the sound of the pompous voice. "I tell you, the grain supply is a disaster," the voice booms, echoing down the corridor. "It's always a disaster, Gaius," the master's voice replies. You fade into the background. You stand by the wall, head bowed, hands clasped. You become part of the architecture. They enter. They don't see you. To them, you are just a towel rack that breathes. They start undressing, handing their togas to their personal body slaves. They talk about taxes. They talk about a chariot race. They talk about a scandal involving a Vestal virgin. You listen. You always listen. This is how you learn. This is how you know more about the politics of Rome than half the people in the forum. You are a sponge. You absorb the gossip along with the steam. The master steps into the tepidarium. He groans with pleasure as the heat hits him. Ah, finally. You wait. Your job now is to be invisible until someone yells towel or oil or more wine. You lean against the cool marble wall. The stone feels good against your back. You close your eyes for a second. The soundscape of the bath shifts. It is no longer quiet. It is filled with the sounds of splashing, of heavy men sighing in relief, of the slap, slap, slap of the masseur working on the senator's back. But underneath it all, the water is still there. The eternal, patient water. Gurgle, splash, drip. It flows through the lead pipes in the walls. It flows under the floor. It flows out into the drains, carrying away the dirt and the oil and the sweat of the empire. You think about the aqueduct that brings this water. Miles and miles of arches, marching across the countryside like stone giants carrying out a river in the sky, just so your master can have a hot soak. It is a miracle of organisation, and it all ends here, in a drain. There is a philosophy in that, you are sure, but it's too humid for philosophy. You watch the steam drift out the door. It curls around the columns of the courtyard. It looks like a spirit escaping. The afternoon is wearing on. Soon the bath will be over. The master will emerge, red-faced and clean. He will demand his dinner, the cena, the main meal. That means the kitchen is about to become a war zone, and you, the scribe, will likely be called to the dining room, not to eat, but to record, to write down any brilliant thoughts the master has while he's drunk on Falernian wine. You sigh, a quiet sigh that is lost in the echo of the room. You look at your hands. The ink stain on your knuckle is still there. Water doesn't wash that off. Only time does. You wait, you listen to the water. Drip. Echo. Drip. The sun has finally admitted defeat. It has slipped below the horizon, taking the heat of the day with it. The sky outside the villa is now a deep, impenetrable purple, the colour of a bruised grape. Inside, a new sun is being born, a fragmented, flickering sun. The slaves are lighting the lamps. Watch them. It is a ritual as old as fire itself. A boy moves from room to room with a burning taper. He approaches the candelabra, tall bronze stands that look like trees made of metal. On each branch sits a clay lamp, a lucerna. He touches the flame to the wick. A tiny spark jumps. A small tear-shaped flame blooms, then another, and another. The smell of the evening changes instantly. The damp, clean smell of the bathhouse is replaced by the smell of burning olive oil. There's a heavy, greasy, organic scent. It smells like a kitchen fire, but cleaner. It smells like civilization holding back the dark. You are standing in the triclinium, the dining room. This is the stage for the evening's performance. The room is arranged around 3 large couches forming a U-shape. This is why it's called a triclinium, 3 beds. Because Romans don't sit up to eat, they lie down. Why fight gravity when you can recline and have someone peel grapes for you? You, however, are not reclining. You are standing. You are part of the furniture. You are positioned in the corner, deep in the shadows, far enough away to be ignored, but close enough to hear a whisper. You have your wax tablet in hand, just in case the master decides to compose a poem between the appetizer and the pork. He enters. He is wearing his dinner toga, a garment of loose white wool that is draped artfully to hide his belly. He looks clean pink from the bath and ready to consume. His guests follow. The senator, still pompous, and a new arrival, a poet from the city who is clearly here just for the free food. You know the type. He will laugh at anything the master says. They take their places. The master takes the host's spot. He leans on his left elbow, fluffing the purple cushion. He looks comfortable. You shift your weight from your left foot to your right foot. The mosaic floor is hard, your sandals are thin. It's going to be a long night. The service begins. It is a silent ballet. The serving slaves move in perfect synchronization. They don't walk, they glide. They are terrified of dropping a platter, so their movements are fluid and careful. First comes the gustatio, the appetizers. A large silver platter is placed in the center of the table. It gleams under the lamplight, reflecting the flames like a mirror. Look at the food. It is designed to impress the eye as much as the stomach. There are eggs, hard-boiled eggs, but the shells have been painted to look like peacock feathers. There are olives from Spain. There are dormice, yes, the little rodents, stuffed with pork mince and pine nuts glazed with honey and poppy seeds. They look like little sleeping sausages. The guests reach out. Crack! The sound of an eggshell breaking. It is a sharp, satisfying sound in the quiet room. Crunch! The sound of the poet biting into a celery stalk. You watch them eat. You are hungry, of course. Your stomach is a hollow cave echoing with the memory of that lunchtime bread. But there is a strange detachment in watching others eat. It's like watching fish in an aquarium. Their jaws move. They swallow. They wipe their hands on their napkins. It is a biological process, stripped of its romance. The smell hits you. It is complex, the sweetness of the honey, the brine of the olives, and underneath it all, the pungent fishy funk of garum, the fish sauce. They put it on everything. It smells like the ocean on a hot day. To a Roman, it smells like money. To you tonight, it just smells heavy. The wine flows, Molsum, wine mixed with honey. A slave pours it from a jug into shallow ceramic cups. Glug, glug, glug. The liquid is dark and thick. It swirls in the cup. The master takes a sip. He sighs. Excellent vintage, from the slopes of Vesuvius. He says this every night. It's probably the same wine from last week. But the guests nod solemnly. Exquisite, says the poet. Nectar of the urns. The conversation begins. It is a low drone, a murmur. They are talking about the games. Who won the chariot race? Which gladiator is the crowd favourite? It is the same conversation they had yesterday and the day before. There's you white noise. I tell you the Greens are cheating, says the senator. The Blues have better horses, counters the master. You stop listening to the words, you listen to the rhythm. It's a lullaby. Statement, agreement, laughter. Sip of wine, silence. Statement, agreement. Your eyelids feel heavy. The flickering light is dangerous. It dances on the walls, making the painted columns look like they are swaying. The shadows of the slaves serving the food stretch out long and thin, like ghosts moving across the room. You focus on a single flame in a lamp near you. The wick is black and curled. The flame is blue at the base, yellow at the tip. It twitches. It fights the draft. It is the only thing in the room with real energy. Course 2, the prima mensa, the main event. The slaves bring in a whole roasted pig. It is massive. It has been roasted with figs and bay leaves. The skin is crackling, a deep mahogany brown. Steam rises from it, carrying the scent of rosemary and fat. The carver approaches. He is the star of the kitchen staff. He wields a knife that flashes in the lamplight. He doesn't just cut the meat, he performs surgery on it. Slice. The knife goes in. The meat parts effortlessly. Juices run onto the silver platter. Chop! He severs a joint. The guests applaud politely. A master stroke, says the poet. You watch the steam rise and vanish into the darkness of the ceiling rafters. The room is getting warmer. The combination of the hot food, the burning lamps, and the bodies is raising the temperature. The air feels close, sleepy. The master starts a story. Oh no, not this one. It's the story about the time he met the emperor's cousin at a bathhouse. You have heard this story 40 times. You have written it down in his memoirs twice. You know exactly when he will pause for effect. You know exactly when he will laugh at his own joke. So I said to him, the master booms, waving a pork rib for emphasis, Senator, that's not a toga, that's a tent. He laughs. Ha ha ha. The guests laugh. You don't laugh, you stare at the floor, you study the pattern of the mosaic. It's a geometric border. Square, triangle, square, triangle. You trace it with your eyes, round and round the room. It's dizzying. You shift your weight again. Your lower back is numb. Your knees are locked. You unlock them slightly to keep the blood flowing. If you faint, you'll drop the wax tablet, and the noise will wake them up. The wine is doing its work on them. Their voices are getting slower, slurrier. The sharp edges of the conversation are rounding off. They are becoming philosophical. What is life, really? Asked the senator, staring into his cup. Is it not just a brief spark in the darkness? Deep, profound. Or maybe he's just drunk. Life, says the master, is about good wine and loyal dogs. And poetry, adds the poet, hoping for a tip. You want to add, and a scribe who hasn't slept in 20 hours. But you stay silent. You are the wall. The slaves clear the table. They sweep the floor. Literally. They sweep up the bones and the crusts of bread that the guests have thrown down. It's a messy custom, eating with your hands and throwing the trash on the floor. But the dogs need to eat too. You see a dog, the same molossus from the afternoon, creep out from under the master's couch. He finds a pork bone. Crunch. He gnaws on it happily. The sound is rhythmic. Gnaw, gnaw, gnaw. Finally, the secunda mensa, dessert. Fruit, nuts, honey cakes. It's too much food, they're full, they pick at the grapes lazily. The energy in the room is dying, the lamps are burning low, the oil is running out, the flames are getting smaller, the shadows are getting bigger. The room is contracting. The master yawns. It is a massive, jaw-cracking yawn. He doesn't cover his mouth. I am fatigued, he announces. This is the signal. The play is over. The guests begin to struggle to their feet. It is a clumsy process. The wine has stolen their balance. They lean on their slaves. They say their goodbyes. A triumph, simply a triumph, slurs the senator. They shuffle out of the room. The sound of their sandals fades down the corridor. The master stands up. He looks at you. For a second, he seems surprised you're still there. Ah, scribe, he says. You straighten up. Master? Did you get that? Get what, master? The witticism about the toga and the tent. I want that in the letter to my brother. I have it memorized, master, you lie. You don't need to write it down. You will never forget it, no matter how hard you try. Good, good, he waves a hand. Go to bed. We start early tomorrow. I have an idea for a treatise on the nature of... He forgets what the treatise is about. He waves his hand again. On something. Good night. He waddles off towards his baroom, followed by his body slave. Silence returns to the triclinium. It is just you and the slaves clearing the tables. They move quietly, blowing out the lamps one by one. Puff, darkness, puff, more darkness. The room is disappearing. The silver platters are gone. The food is gone. The light is gone. You smell the extinguishing wicks, that familiar acrid smoke. It signals the end. You tuck the wax tablet into your belt. You step away from the wall. Your legs feel strange, light and heavy at the same time. You walk out of the dining room. The villa is dark now. Only the moonlight spills into the courtyard, painting the fountain in silver. The feast is over. The performance is done. The audience has left. And you? You have survived another day in the service of history. You step out of the triclinium and into the corridor. The air here is different. It doesn't smell of roast pork or stale wine. It smells of the night. You walk towards the peristyle, the open-air garden in the centre of the house. This is the lungs of the villa, breathing in the cool air from the hills. The silence here is absolute. The slaves have retreated to their quarters. The guests are gone. The master is snoring. The only sound left is the fountain. Trickle, splash, trickle. It is a gentle, inconsistent sound. The water falls from the marble vase into the pool below, shattering the reflection of the moon. You stop. You really should go to bed. Your niche under the stairs is waiting. Your straw mattress is calling your name with the siren song of sleep. But there is something about the night air that holds you here. It washes over your face, cooling the heat of the kitchen, soothing the itch of the wool tunic. You kick off your sandals, you stand barefoot on the stone pavement. It is cold, a delicious, grounding cold that sends a shiver up your spine, waking you up just enough to appreciate the moment, but not enough to ruin your drowsiness. You look up. Above the square opening of the roof, framed by the dark silhouette of the tiles, is the universe, the Roman sky. It is not the sky of the modern city, washed out by streetlights and neon signs. This is a sky of ink and diamonds. The black is so deep it feels like you could fall into it. And the stars, there are thousands of them. They are crowded together, jostling for space, burning with a fierce, cold light. You crane your neck. You know them. You have copied books about them. Aratus, Hyginus, you know their names. There, dominating the southern sky, is Orion, the hunter. You see his belt, 3 perfect stars in a line. He stands there, club raised, shield ready, freezing in the eternal hunt. You feel a kinship with him. He is working the night shift too. He has been standing guard over the world since before Rome was a village of mud huts, and he will be there long after the marble columns of this villa have crumbled into dust in. To his left, Sirius, the dog star. It flashes blue and white, flickering violently. It is the brightest thing in the sky, a piercing eye watching the Empire sleep. And there, winding its way through the darkness like a river of milk, is the Via Lactea, the Milky Way, the path of the gods. It looks like a cloud, but you know, because you've read the Greeks, that it is made of millions of tiny fires. It makes you feel small. Earlier today, you were worried about a drop of ink. You were terrified of a spelling mistake. You were anxious about the master's gout and the price of olive oil. But looking up at Ursa Major, the Great Bear slowly wheeling around the pole star, those worries seem ridiculous. The stars do not care about your inventory. The stars do not care about the Senate. They do not care about the Roman Empire. They just burn. There is immense comfort in that indifference. You are just a speck of dust standing in a garden, breathing in the night air. And that is okay. For this moment, you don't have to be a scribe. You don't have to be a slave. You're just a witness to the cosmos. A breeze stirs the leaves of the bay laurel tree. Rustle. Hush. The shadows in the garden seem to move. The statues of the ancestors, lined up along the wall, look like they are watching you. But they are not judging. They look peaceful. They have finished their work. They have crossed the river Styx. They are sleeping the eternal sleep. You envy them just a little bit. You take a deep breath. You fill your lungs with the scent of jasmine and damp earth. You hold it. You release it. Exhale. You let go of the day. You let go of the Cato speech. You let go of the noise of the feast. You let it all flow out of you, carried away by the breeze, up through the open roof, dissolving into the starlight. Your feet are getting cold. It is time. You turn away from the garden. You walk back into the shadows of the portico. You trace your hand along the rough plaster of the wall. It guides you in the dark. You know this house by touch. You know every uneven stone, every chipped corner. You reach the service corridor. It is pitch black here, but you don't need light. You navigate by instinct. You find the curtain. You pull it aside. Home. The niche under the stairs. It is small, it is cramped, it smells of old straw and your own fatigue, but it is the most beautiful place in the world right now. You sit down on the edge of the mattress. The final ritual. You untie the belt of your tunic. You loosen the fabric. You rub your eyes. They feel gritty, like someone has poured sand into them. You lie down. The straw rustles. Crinkle, crunch. It conforms to your body. You find the hollow you made last night. You pull the wool blanket up. It is heavy, pressing you down, anchoring you to the earth. You close your eyes, but the images of the day are still flickering on the back of your eyelids. You see the ink pot. You see the green papyrus reeds swaying in the Nile. You see the steam rising in the bathhouse. You see the flames of the oil lamps. They are flashing by, faster and faster, a montage of the Roman world. But you don't fight them. You let them play out, you watch them fade. The ink pot spills and turns into a dark river. The papyrus reeds turn into soft grass. The steam turns into a cloud. The flames turn into stars. The noise in your head begins to quiet down. The voice of the master becomes a murmur, then a whisper, then nothing. You focus on your breathing. In, out, in, out. You listen to the house one last time. The fountain's too far away to hear now. The wind has died down. The cicadas have stopped singing, replaced by the silence of the deep night. The only sound is your own heart, thump, 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 thump. It slows down. You are drifting. You are a boat on the Tiber, cutting the rope, letting the current take you. You are floating away from the villa, away from Rome, away from history. You are going to a place where there are no words to copy, a place where the ink never runs dry because you never have to write. The darkness wraps around you like a warm cloak. It is soft, it is heavy, it is safe. Good night, scribe. Good night, Rome. Sleep, you are walking, but this is not the walking of the day. Your feet do not ache. The callus on your heel, the one that usually throbs after a long shift standing in the triclinium, is gone. You feel weightless, as if gravity has decided to make an exception for you, just this once. You're moving forward, gliding really, over a surface that is familiar yet strangely perfect. Look down, you are standing on the Via Appia, the queen of roads. In the waking world, this road is a chaotic artery of the empire. It is clogged with ox carts, shouting merchants, marching legionaries and beggars. Smells of dung and sweat. But here, in the landscape of your sleep, the road is empty. It is just a ribbon of stone stretching out to the horizon, cutting through the Italian countryside like a grey scar. Kneel down in your dream, touch the stones. They are basalt, volcanic rock, hard, black and unyielding. They are cut into irregular polygons, fitted together so tightly that you cannot slide a knife blade between them. This is the jigsaw puzzle of the giants. Think about the men who laid these stones, not the generals who ordered them, but the hands that placed them, the paviors. They hammered these rocks into the earth, layer upon layer, sand, gravel, crushed stone, and finally these basalt caps. They built it to last forever. And looking at it now under the strange silver light of this dream sun, you believe them. The empire might fall, the emperors might die, but this road will be here when the stars burn out. You stand up and begin to move towards the city, Rome. It looms in the distance, not as a city of noise, but as a mountain range of marble and brick. You're drawn to it. You're a moth flying towards the biggest lantern in history. As you glide closer, passing the silent tombs of the ancestors that line the road, you see the arteries of the city, the aqueducts. Look at them. The Aqua Claudia. It marches across the valley floor on legs of stone. Arches upon arches, stacking higher and higher. It looks like the skeleton of a massive serpent. Let's float up. In a dream you can do that. Let's float up to the top of the aqueduct, 50 feet in the air. Listen, rush, gurgle, hush. Inside that stone channel a river is flowing. Water captured from the pure springs of the Subiaco Mountains, miles away. It is flowing downhill, powered only by gravity, calculating its descent with mathematical precision. The gradient is tiny, just a few inches for every 100 feet, but it is enough. The water knows where to go. It is rushing towards the baths, towards the fountains, towards the cup of a thirsty senator. There is something soothing about the aqueduct. It is a machine with no moving parts. It is just stone and water, working in perfect harmony. It doesn't complain, doesn't ask for a salary, just carries the lifeblood of the city day and night, century after century. You run your hand along the rough travertine blocks of the arch. They are warm. You can feel the vibration of the water rushing inside, a constant low-frequency hum that resonates in your chest. You leave the aqueduct and drift towards the city walls, the Porta Capena, the Great Gate. It is open. There are no guards here in the dream, no tax collectors demanding a toll. You pass through the archway and the city swallows you. But it is a silent city. The Rome of your dream is a ghost town of magnificence. The streets are narrow, winding canyons of tall apartment blocks, insulae. They rise up 5-6 stories high. In reality, these are noisy, dangerous fire traps, smelling of cooking cabbage and unwashed humanity. But now they are just geometry, shadows and light. You look up at the balconies. Laundry hangs frozen in the air, stiff as boards. A shutter bangs slowly in a wind that you cannot feel. Bang. Pause. Bang. You drift deeper, towards the heart of the beast, the Forum. Here the ground opens up. The clutter of the poor neighbourhoods falls away, replaced by the grandeur of the state. Marble. So much marble. White marble from Carrara, green marble from Greece, yellow marble from Africa. The Romans stripped the mountains of the world to pave this square. You find yourself standing in front of the Senate House, the Curia Julia. It is a box, a simple, severe, brick-faced box, but it radiates power. The heavy bronze doors are shut. You walk right through them. Inside, the air is cool and smells of old incense. The floor is a stunning pattern of inlaid stone, a kaleidoscope of colours. The benches for the senators rise up on either side, empty now. Sit down on one of the benches. It is hard. Imagine the noise that usually fills this room. The shouting, the speeches, the endless debates about grain laws and border wars. Men in expensive togas waving their arms, convinced that their words are shaping destiny. We must destroy Carthage. We must lower the tax on salt. We must ban the wearing of purple by commoners. But in the silence of the dream, you realise how small their voices are. The stone walls absorb them all. The marble floor doesn't care who is consul this year. The building is patient. It has seen dictators come and go. It has seen daggers drawn and blood spilled. And it just sits here, echoing the silence. You leave the Senate. You float out into the sunlight again. You drift towards the largest shape on the horizon, the amphitheatre, the Colosseum. It is a mountain of travertine, 4 stories high, a layer cake of columns, Doric at the bottom, Ionic in the middle, Corinthian at the top. It is a masterpiece of order. You enter through one of the 80 arches, the vomitorium, a terrible name for a simple hallway designed to spew people out into their seats. You walk up the dark concrete stairs. You emerge into the arena. It is vast, an oval bowl of emptiness. The sand on the arena floor is pristine, white and smooth, undisturbed by the footprint of any gladiator or the claw of any lion. You walk to the centre of the arena. You turn around slowly. Rows upon rows of empty seats rise up around you like the sides of a canyon. You can imagine the roar of 50,000 people, the screaming, the cheering, the selling of snacks. But tonight the only spectator is the moon, peeking over the rim of the upper wall. You look down at the sand. Underneath your feet is the Hypogeum, the underground maze of cages and trapdoors, the machinery of death. But in your dream the machinery is sleeping. The lions are sleeping in the mountains of Numidia. The gladiators are sleeping in their barracks, dreaming of freedom. The arena is just a beautiful hollow shell. You feel a profound sense of peace here. In the centre of the violence, it is the eye of the storm. You decide to leave the Colosseum. There is one more place you need to visit, a place of true quiet. The Pantheon, the temple of all gods. You drift through the winding streets of the Campus Martius until you see it. The massive porch, the granite columns that are so wide it would take 3 men to hug them. You walk through the massive bronze doors, and then you stop. The space inside is perfect. It is a sphere, a perfect sphere trapped inside a cylinder. If you were to rotate the dome, it would touch the floor. It is geometry made sacred. You walk to the centre of the floor, standing on a square of purple porphyry. You look up. The oculus. The eye. The only source of light. A perfect circle cut out of the top of the concrete dome. It is open to the sky. There is no glass. Just air. In your dream it is raining. But it is a gentle rain. A slow misty drizzle. You watch the raindrops fall through the oculus. They fall in slow motion, glittering like diamonds in the beam of light. They fall 140 feet, drifting down, down, down. Plip, plip, plip. They hit the floor around you, draining away into the tiny, almost invisible holes drilled into the marble. You lie down on the floor of the Pantheon. The stone is cool against your back. You stare up at that circle of sky. This is the greatest achievement of your people. Not the swords, not the laws, but this. A room that captures the sky. A room made of concrete, opus cementitium. Your mind, the mind of a scribe who appreciates details, starts to deconstruct the dome. You know how it was made, you know the recipe. At the bottom, the concrete is heavy, mixed with chunks of dense travertine. It has to be strong to hold the weight. As the dome rises, the recipe changes. They used lighter stones, tufa, brick, and at the very top, around the oculus, the concrete is mixed with pumice, volcanic rock that floats on water, light as air. The dome gets lighter as it reaches for the heavens. It is a graduation of weight, a shedding of earthly burdens. Just like you. Lying there, you feel your own body getting lighter. The heavy bones of your legs turn to tufa. Your chest turns to brick. Your head, full of thoughts and worries, turns to pumice. You are floating up. You lift off the floor. You drift upwards, past the statues of the gods in their niches, past the Mars, past the Venus. They watch you go with stone eyes. You float up towards the oculus. The rain passes through you. You are a ghost of the library ascending. You pass through the opening. You pop out of the top of the Pantheon. And suddenly you are above the sit. The view is breathtaking. Rome is spread out below you like a map. The 7 hills are gentle humps in the landscape. The river Tiber snakes through it all, a silver ribbon reflecting the dreamlight. You can see the smoke rising from the bathhouses. You can see the straight lines of the roads radiating out into the darkness of the world via Flaminia, via Aurelia, via Appia. You are flying, but you are tethered. A thin, invisible thread connects you back to your body, back to the villa, back to the niche under the stairs, back to the straw mattress, to the... The city begins to blur. The sharp edges of the marble soften. The sounds of the dream, the rushing aqueduct, the banging shutter, the falling rain begin to merge into a single rhythmic sound. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It is the sound of your own breath. The dream is ending. Not waking you up, but folding in on itself. The Pantheon collapses into a cloud of soft dust. The Colosseum sinks into the sand. The roads roll themselves up like scrolls. You're being pulled back, gently, slowly. The white marble turns to grey mist. The grey mist turns to black velvet. You settle back into your body. You feel the scratch of the wool blanket again, but it is distant. You are deep, deep down in the well of sleep. The city of stone is gone, but the feeling of solidity remains. You have touched the foundation of the world. You are grounded. You shift your leg, a small movement, a micro-adjustment of comfort. You are no longer in Rome. You are nowhere. You are in the void of rest. The place where the brain repairs itself. The place where the ink stains on your fingers don't matter. And in this silence, you prepare for the next phase of the night. A phase without images. A phase of pure existence. Rest, builder of dreams. Rest, walker of stone. The concrete dries, the arch holds, the water flows. And the scribe sleeps on. The stone city of your dream dissolves. The heavy grey basalt of the Via Appia softens, turning into something warmer, something organic. The silence of the abandoned Colosseum is replaced by a low, rhythmic buzzing, like a hive of bees in summer. You're travelling back, not in miles, but in years. The ache in your back, the scribe's curse, is gone. In fact, your whole body feels different. It is smaller. Your hands, usually stained with ink and callus hardened, are soft and chubby. They are the hands of a boy. You are 7 years old, and you are in Greece. Or perhaps a Greek colony in southern Italy. It doesn't matter. The light is the same. It is a golden, honeyed light that seems to stick to everything it touches. You are sitting on a wooden bench, your legs swinging freely because they don't quite reach the dirt floor. You are in the didascaleon, the schoolroom. It smells of cedarwood and unwashed boys. There is dust dancing in the shafts of sunlight that pierce the open window. Outside, you can hear the faint sounds of the gymnasium. Older boys wrestling, grunting, the thud of bodies hitting the sand. You want to be there. You want to be running and throwing the javelin. But you are here. You are a prisoner of the alphabet. Look down at your lap. Resting there is a tabula, a wax tablet. It is a wooden frame, rectangular and shallow, filled with a layer of beeswax that has been dyed black with soot. It looks like a small, dark lake at midnight. In your right hand, you hold the stylus. It is a simple tool, made of bone. One end is sharp and pointed for writing. The other end is flat and wide like a spatula for erasing. It is the most powerful tool in the world, though you don't know it yet. Right now, it just feels like a clumsy stick. Alpha, says a voice. It is your pedagogus, the old tutor. He is a man made of wrinkles and grey beard. He holds a cane, but he rarely uses it. Mostly he uses it to point at things, or to scratch his own back. He is sitting on a stool in the corner, fighting a losing battle against a gnat. Draw the alpha, he murmurs, his eyes half closed. You look at the black wax. It is perfect, smooth, pristine. You hate to ruin it, but you must. You press the bone tip into the wax. It offers a satisfying resistance. It's not like writing on papyrus with ink, which flows. No, writing on wax is a sculpture. You're carving. Scratch. You draw a diagonal line. It's a bit wobbly. It looks like a leaning tree. Scratch. You draw the second line, meeting the first at the top. A mountain. Scritch. You cross them in the middle. There. Alpha, the beginning, the first sound of the Iliad, the first sound of a baby. Ah! You look at it. It's terrible. It looks like a chicken walked across your tablet. Again, the tutor grunts without opening his eyes. He has ears like a bat. You can hear a bad letter. You flip the stylus over. You use the flat end, the eraser. You press it against the wax and rub. The friction warms the wax, making it soft. You smooth out the lines. You crush the mountain. You erase the chicken tracks. The wax becomes flat and black again. A blank slate. Tabula rasa. This is the beauty of the wax. Nothing is permanent. Mistakes are just temporary ripples. Unlike the expensive papyrus you will use in 40 years, where a mistake is a tragedy. Here a mistake is just a practice run. You try again. Down, down, across. Better. This one looks like a proper triangle. It stands up straight. You feel a strange tingle in your chest. You made that. A moment ago it was just wax. Now it is a sound trapped in a shape. If someone comes in from the street and looks at this board, they will hear the sound ayu in their head. You have learned magic. Beta, says the tutor. The bee, the bubbling sound. You carve. A straight line, 2 loops. The loops are hard. The bone stylus wants to go straight. You have to force it to curve. Your tongue sticks out of the corner of your mouth in concentration. Scritch, scratch! The room is warm. Flies are buzzing near the ceiling. The drone of the tutor's voice is hypnotic. Gamma, delta, epsilon. You work your way through the alphabet, the building blocks of the universe. With these 24 letters, you can build anything. You can build a poem about a rage-filled hero. You can build a law that taxes the farmers. You can build a love letter. You can build a history of the world. But right now, you are just building calluses on your fingers. Your hand starts to cramp. The scribe's pinch is born here, in this dusty room, on this sunny afternoon. It is the birthmark of your caste. You look at the tutor. He has finally succumbed. His chin is resting on his chest. A soft snore escapes his lips. You stop writing. You hold the stylus in mid-air. You look at the dust motes floating in the sunbeam. They look like tiny stars. You realise that everything is made of particles. The dust, the wood, the wax, the old man and the words themselves. You press the flat end of the stylus into the wax, but you don't erase. You just press it there, feeling the give of the material. It feels like the skin. The memory shifts. The sunlight in the room changes. It goes from the yellow of noon to the orange of late afternoon. You're older now, maybe 10. You're no longer writing letters. You're writing sentences. Labor omnia vincit. Work conquers all. Vestina lente, make haste slowly. You are copying proverbs. Boring, endless proverbs intended to make you a good citizen. You hate them. You want to write about dragons. You want to write about ships sailing to the edge of the world. But you write the proverbs. You learn the discipline. You learn that writing is not just about what you want to say. It's about what needs to be preserved. The smell of the wax is intense. It smells sweet, cloying, earthy. It sticks to your clothes. It gets under your fingernails. You pick at a piece of black wax under your thumbnail. It comes out in a little roll. You look at the other boys. They are scribbling too. Some are fast, scratching away like squirrels. Some are slow, agonizing over every curve. You are somewhere in the middle. You are steady. You are reliable. That is your gift. You are not a poet. You are a recorder. The tutor wakes up with a start. He bangs his cane on the floor. "Silence!" he shouts at the silent room. He looks around, confused. He wipes a bit of drool from his beard. Verb conjugation. Now. To love. Amo. Amas. Ama. You sigh, you smooth the wax, you erase the proverbs, you prepare the surface for love. Amo. I love. Amas. You love. Ama. He loves. The rhythm of the grammar is soothing. It is the structure. It makes sense of the chaotic world. People die, empires fall, seasons change. But the verb conjugations remain the same. Amabam, amabaz, amabat. I was loving, you were loving, he was loving. The memory begins to fade. The walls of the schoolroom dissolve into light. The voice of the tutor echoes, stretching out like a sound in a canyon. Amo! The wax tablet melts. It turns into liquid. It turns into a dark, swirling pool. You are floating in the blackness. The transition is seamless. You are leaving the solid safety of childhood wax and entering the fluid, dangerous world of adult ink. The dream shifts. You are no longer a child, you are the scribe again, but you are not in the library. You are in a place that smells of fire and vinegar. You are in the atramentarium, the laboratory of ink. This is a lucid dream, a procedural memory playing out in slow motion. Your brain is reviewing the chemistry of your trade, reminding you of the substance that stains your soul. You are standing in front of a furnace, but it is not a furnace for baking bread or smelting iron. It is a furnace for catching ghosts. Look at it. It is a small brick oven. Inside, a fire is burning, but it is a choked fire. It is burning pitch pine wood, resin-heavy, sticky wood that produces thick, black smoke. The smoke rises, but it is not allowed to escape into the sky. No, it is trapped. It hits a cold marble chamber above the fire. This is the harvest. You watch the smoke hit the cold stone. It condenses. It clings. It turns from a gas into a solid. It becomes soot, lamp black, the purest black in nature. It is the soul of the wood stripped of everything but its colour. In the dream, you reach out with a scraper. You gently scrape the inside of the marble chamber. Scrape, shh, scrape. The soot falls like black snow. It is light, airy, almost weightless. If you sneeze, you will lose a week's work. It floats into a clay bowl. It is finer than flour, finer than dust. It is velvet in powder form. This is the pigment. But pigment alone is just dust. It needs a body. It needs to bind. Turn to the table. There is a jar of amber tears. Gum arabic. The dried sap of the acacia tree, brought all the way from Africa. It looks like crystallized honey. You take a handful of the tears. They rattle in your palm. Click, clack. You drop them into a mortar, a heavy stone bowl. You pick up the pestle. It is heavy, solid granite. Crunch. You crush the gum. It shatters into white powder. The sound is sharp, brittle. You grind it down, grind, grind, grind. Now the liquid. You pour water into the mortar, just a little. You watch the white powder dissolve. It turns into a thick, sticky mucilage. A glue. This is what will hold the black dust to the papyrus. Without this, the words would just blow away in the wind. Now the marriage. You take the bowl of a black soot. You pour it into the sticky gum water. The two substances resist each other at first. The soot floats on top, a dry, hydrophobic island. It doesn't want to drown. You take the pestle again. You begin to mix. This is the part that takes hours. This is the meditation. Swirl, squish, swirl. You have to force them together. You have to grind the soot into the gum. Round and round, clockwise, always clockwise. The mixture turns grey, then dark grey, then a muddy charcoal, and finally, after 1,000 revolutions of your wrist, it turns black. True black atramentum. It is glossy. It shines like the carapace of a beetle. It smells of burnt pine and wet earth. But you are not done. It is too thick. It is a paste. You can't write with sludge. You reach for another jug. Vinegar? Wine? No, usually just old wine that has turned sour. The acid helps the flow. It bites into the paper. You add a splash. Glug. You stir again. The texture changes. It relaxes. It stops being a paste and becomes a fluid. You lift the pestle. You watch the ink drip off the end. Drip. It pulls into a long, thin thread before it breaks. That is the test. If it breaks too soon, it's too watery. If it doesn't break, it's too thick. This thread is perfect. It is a string of liquid night. In the dreams, you're fascinated by the blackness. You lean in close. The surface of the ink in the bowl is a mirror, a dark mirror. It doesn't reflect the light. It swallows it. You see your own reflection in the bowl, a distorted dark scribe. You dip your finger into the bowl. The ink is cool. It coats your skin instantly. You rub your thumb and forefinger together. It is slippery, smooth, no grit, perfection. You think about the chemistry of what you have made. You have taken fire, the soot, earth, the gum, and water. You have combined the elements to create memory. This black liquid is the only thing that separates history from prehistory. Without this, there is no Cicero, no Caesar, no laws, no receipts for grain. There is only spoken words vanishing into the air as soon as they are said. But with this black water, you can freeze time. You can catch a thought and pin it to a sheet of paper like a butterfly in a display case. It is a terrible responsibility. And it is messy. In the dream, the ink starts to expand. It overflows the bowl. It spills onto the table. It spills onto the floor. It is a silent flood. It covers your feet. It rises to your ankles. It is warm, comforting. You are not afraid. You are a creature of the ink. You belong to it. The smell of the burnt resin fills your nose. It is a smoky autumnal smell. It reminds you of campfires, of sacrifices, of home. You watch the ink spread across the floor of the dream laboratory. It touches the walls, and the walls turn into text. The bricks become letters. The mortar becomes punctuation. The whole world is being written, and you are the ingredient. You pick up a small clay jar, the atramentarium that sits on your desk in the waking world. You dip it into the flood. You fill it up. You cork it. Thump. You have bottled the night. The repetitive motion of the grinding, round and round, has lulled you deeper into sleep. The sound of the pestle against the mortar echoes in your mind, but it is soft now, like a heartbeat. Grind, rest, grind, rest. Your hands in the dream are stained black up to the elbows, but you don't try to wash it off. It is your armour. The laboratory begins to fade. The smell of vinegar dissipates. The black flood recedes, leaving behind a smooth, dark darkness. The darkness of deep sleep. You float there, suspended in the ink. It is thick and buoyant. It supports you. You have visited the childhood of the letters. You have visited the birth of the ink. You have assembled the tools, the software, the alphabet, and the hardware, the ink. Now your mind is ready to rest completely. The tools are put away. The workshop is closed. The grinding stops. The scratching stops. There is only the silence of the jar, sealed, airtight, waiting for the morning. But morning is still far away. There are centuries of minutes left in this night. You drift, weightless, timeless. A bubble of air rises through the ink, bloop, and then silence. You're floating in the black ink, but slowly the darkness begins to thin. It dilutes, turning from pitch black to a murky grey, and then, surprisingly, to a vibrant, translucent green. You are rising, breaking the surface. You take a deep breath. The air is fresh. It smells of wet earth, decaying leaves and moving water. You are no longer in the villa. You are no longer in the schoolroom. You are standing on the edge of a riverbank. It might be the Tiber, sluggish and brown, or perhaps a smaller tributary, clear and cold, running down from the Apennines. It is a place of borders, the border between land and water, the border between solid ground and mud. And growing out of this mud is the source of your voice, the reeds, Arundo Donax. Look at them. A vast, chaotic wall of green stalks rising 12 feet into the air. They are not like the papyrus of Egypt, which are noble and rare. These are common river reeds. They grow everywhere. They are the weeds of the water. But to you they are precious. The wind picks up. Listen. Swish, rustle, clack, hush. This is the music of the riverbank. The reeds are hollow, and when they knock against each other, they sound like wooden wind chimes. It is a dry, percussive sound overlaying the soft shh of the leaves. It is nature's own library, whispering 1,000 secrets that haven't been written yet. You step into the reed bed. Your feet sink into the snow. It is cool and squelchy. It oozes between your toes. A frog leaps away with a startled plop. A dragonfly, iridescent blue like a jewel, hovers in front of your nose, buzzing angrily before darting away. You are here on a quest. You are looking for the calamus, the chosen one. Not every reed can be a pen. Most are too thin, some are too thick, some are crooked, bent by the wind or the weight of a passing bird. A crooked reed makes a crooked line, and a crooked line makes a sloppy scribe. You need perfection. You move slowly through the green canyon. You run your hands along the stalks. They are hard like bamboo but smooth. They have knuckles, nodes spaced out every few inches. You are looking for a section between the nodes that is long, straight and blemish-free. You pause, you see it. There, growing near the water's edge, drinking deep of the silt. It is a stalk about the thickness of your little finger. It stands perfectly vertical, defying the wind. It is a proud reed. You reach out, you grip it. It feels dense. It's not young and green and sappy, it's older. It has hardened. It has survived a winter. That means the wood is tough. That means the nib will hold its edge. You pull out your knife. Not the delicate penknife you use at the desk, but a rougher harvest knife. You kneel down in the mud. You have to cut it low, near the root, where the wall of the plant is thickest. Slice. The sound is crisp. The reed topples. You catch it before it hits the water. You strip off the leaves. They peel away easily, revealing the shiny yellow-green tube underneath. You hold it up to the sun. It glows. It is semi-translucent. You can see the fibres running the length of the tube, perfectly parallel veins. These are the channels that will guide the ink. You cut the stalk into manageable lengths. Each segment is a potential pen, a potential poem, a potential declaration of war. You put them in a canvas sack slung over your shoulder. You continue the harvest. You are picky. You reject 100 stalks for every one you take. You are the Spartan of the swamp. Only the strong survive to become literature. The sun is warm on your back. The sound of the river is a constant low rumble. You feel a deep connection to this place. It is wild and unkempt, unlike the manicured gardens of the villa. But this is where the order begins. You're taking chaos, wild grass, and preparing to turn it into order, Latin grammar. You sit down on a dry rock to rest. You take one of the reeds and blow through it. Hoo! A low, mournful note. A whistle. The reed sings. It is a musical instrument before it is a writing instrument. You smile. Pan, the god of the wild, played pipes made of this stuff. You are not so different from a musician. He plays notes. You play words. You watch the water flow by. It smooths the stones. It feeds the roots. It is relentless. This is the patience of the craft. You cannot rush the reed. If you cut it too green, it will shrivel as it dries. If you cut it too dead, it will be brittle and crack. You have to catch it in the moment of transition. The bag is full. You have enough pens for a year. Or perhaps 6 months, if Cato's particularly verbose. You stand up, you hoist the bag, the reeds rattle inside. Clack, clack. Sounds like a bag of bones. You walk back up the bank, leaving the mud, leaving the frogs, leaving the symphony of the wind. You are carrying the harvest home. The green world begins to fade. The sound of the water recedes, replaced by a drier, quieter acoustic. The dream carries you forward in time. The harvest is done. Now comes the curing. The scene changes. You are indoors now, but it is not the library. It is a workshop. A small sun-drenched room with a workbench made of thick olive wood. The wood is scarred and stained from years of cutting and ink spilling. On the table lies your harvest, but look at them. They are no longer green. Time has passed in the blink of a dream's eye. The reeds have been buried in hot sand for months. They have been seasoned. They have transformed. The vibrant green is gone, replaced by a rich, glossy chestnut brown. They look like polished mahogany. They are light as a feather, but hard as bone. They are ready. You sit at the bench. The light is coming from the left. always from the left so your hand doesn't cast a shadow on the work. In front of you is your scalprum librarium, the penknife. It is a beautiful tool. The blade is small, leaf-shaped, made of high-quality steel that has been folded and tempered. The handle is bone, smooth and warm to the touch. It is razor-sharp, it has to be. A dull knife crushes the fibres, a sharp knife severs them. You pick up a reed, you twirl it in your fingers. You're feeling for the balance. You're looking for the belly, the slightly curved side that will become the underside of the nib. You find it. You take a deep breath, you steady your hands. This requires the precision of a surgeon and the nerves of a bomb disposal expert. One slip and the reed is ruined. One slip and your thumb is bleeding. The first cut, the decapitation. You slice off the knot at the end of the tube to open it up. Snap! It is a clean, dry sound. The hollow centre is revealed. It looks like a dark eye staring at you. The second cut, the ventral slice. You hold the knife at a shallow angle, about 30 degrees. You place the blade on the belly of the reed. You push forward, away from your body. Stick! A long, curved shaving of wood curls away from the blade. It falls to the floor. You have opened the channel. You have created a scoop like a shovel. You examine the cut. It is smooth, glass smooth. If it were rough, the ink would catch and blot. It is perfect. The third cut, the shoulders. Now you must narrow the scoop into a point. You slice down the left side. Slice! Then the right side. Slice. Now it looks like a spearhead. Pointed. Sharp, deadly. But it is not done. A solid point cannot write. It needs to breathe. It needs to flex. The fourth cut, the slit. This is the moment of truth. The most delicate part. You need to create a crack right down the centre of the tip so the ink can flow down the channel by capillary action. You place the knife edge exactly in the centre of the nib. You don't slice. You rock the blade. You apply gentle pressure. Crack! A tiny microscopic sound. You look closely. A perfect hairline fracture runs up the centre of the nib. It is the heart of the pen. It splits the nib into two tines like a fork. When you press down on the paper, these tines will spread, releasing the ink. When you lift up, they will close, holding the ink back. It is a valve, a mechanical valve made of grass. The fifth cut, the nibbing. The point is too sharp, it will tear the papyrus. It needs to be blunt, just a tiny bit. A chisel tip. You place the very tip of the reed on a small block of ebony wood. You hold the knife vertical. You bring it down. Crunch. You chop off the microscopic tip. Now it is a flat edge, a broad edge. This is what gives Roman writing its character. Thick vertical lines, thin horizontal lines. The angle of this cut determines your font. You hold the pen up to the light. You look through the slit. Light shines through it. It is symmetrical. It is beautiful. You have taken a dead stick and given it a tongue. But does it work? You reach for a scrap of papyrus. You reach for the ink pot, the one you made in the last dream. You dip the new pen. Glug. It drinks the ink. The black fluid rushes up the hollow tube, defying gravity. Held there by surface tension. It is charged. You bring it to the paper. You don't write a word. You just make a line. A spiral. Scritch. Swoosh. Scritch. The sound. It is different from the old, dull pen you used last night. This sound is crisp. It sings. It bites into the paper with authority. The ink flows smoothly, a glistening black river trailing behind the brown tip. No blobs, no skipping. You make a figure 8, loop-de-loop. It feels satisfying. There is a feedback in the handle. You can feel the texture of the paper travelling up the reed and into your fingertips. You are connected to the page. You smile in your dream. You set the pen down. You pick up the next reed. Snap, slice, slice, crack, crunch. You fall into a rhythm. You're a factory of one. Snap, the opening. Slice, the scoop. Slice, the shoulder. Crack, the slit, crunch, the tip. The shavings pile up on the floor around your feet. Curly brown ribbons of wood. The smell of the dry reed is distinct. It smells like toasted bread and old library books. Your mind empties of all other thoughts. There is no Cato, there is no master, there is no debt, there is only the knife and the reed. This is the meditation of the craftsman. The world shrinks down to the point of the blade. It is a peaceful, dangerous place. You sharpen 5 pens, 10 pens, 20 pens. You arrange them in a row on the bench. They look like soldiers standing at attention. They are identical. They are ready for war, the war against forgetfulness. You pick up the oil stone. You run the blade of the knife over it to keep it keen. Shwip, shwip. The sound is rhythmic, repetitive, hypnotic. The sunlight in the workshop begins to fade. The dust motes slow down. The golden light turns to the blue twilight of deep sleep. You put the knife away in its leather sheath, slide, click. You brush the wood shavings off your lap. You have the ink, you have the pen, you have the paper. The trinity is complete. Your dream self feels a profound sense of preparedness. Tomorrow, when the real sun rises, when the real master shouts, you will be ready. You have the tools, you have the skill. You lean back in the dream chair. The smell of the olive wood bench rises up to meet you. It is a grounding scent. The workshop dissolves. The bench fades. The pens vanish. You are drifting back down. The sensory details soften. The sharp crack of the knife becomes a dull thud. The bright light becomes a comforting shadow. You are returning to the niche under the stairs, but you are returning armed. You curl up in the straw. The sensation of the scribe's pinch is gone. Your hands feel capable, strong. The night deepens. The silence of the villa wraps around you once more. But now it is a silence filled with potential. You sleep, and in your sleep you write. You write on the air, you write on the wind, you write your name on the surface of a dream. Scritch, scratch, hush, you wake up. But something is different. The air in your niche under the stairs has teeth. It bites at your nose, it nips at your ears. You exhale, and a plume of white ghost breath rises into the darkness, lingering for a moment before dissolving. Winter has arrived in Italy. The easy, warm mornings of summer are gone. The sun is lazy now, it sleeps late and leaves early. You're awake before it, as always. You refuse to leave the cocoon of your wool blanket. You lie there, knees pulled up to your chest, preserving every calorie of heat. You listen. The villa sounds different in winter. The wood has contracted. The stones are cold and silent. There are no cicadas screaming. There are no birds chirping. The world is muffled, wrapped in a layer of frost. But there is a new sound. A low subterranean rumble. A gentle roar that seems to come from the bowels of the earth. Home! The Hypocaust. The genius of Vim engineering is hard at work. Somewhere outside in the Praefurnium, a slave is feeding logs into a massive furnace. The fire is raging, but you don't see the fire, you feel it. The heat travels through the channels under the floor. It rises up through hollow clay tiles in the walls, the tubuli. The villa is a giant radiator. Well, parts of it are. The master's bedroom is toasty. The dining room is pleasant. Your niche under the stairs? Not so much. You're on the periphery of civilization's warmth. You summon your courage, you throw off the blanket. By Jupiter, you hiss, it is freezing. You fumble in the dark for your tunic. You find your winter tunic, thick, scratchy wool dyed a dark russet colour. You pull it on, it feels heavy, like armour. You wrap a scarf around your neck. You put on your socks. Yes, socks, the udons. The master laughs at them, calls them barbarian fashion, but your toes are currently turning blue, so you don't care about fashion. You step out into the corridor. The floor is the map of heat. You walk quickly across the cold mosaic of the hallway. Cold, cold, cold. Then you reach the threshold of the main atrium. Warm. You stop, you wiggle your toes, you can feel the heat radiating up through the soles of your sandals. It is a miracle. It feels like standing on a sleeping dragon. You stand there for a minute, just absorbing the energy, letting it thaw your frozen ankles. You move to the library. The library is a problem in the winter. Cold is fine for books, but dampness is the killer. And Italian winters are wet. You open the door. The smell hits you. It's no longer just cedar and papyrus. It smells of wood smoke and charcoal. In the centre of the room stands a brazier, a bronze tripod holding a shallow dish of glowing coals. It was left burning low all night to keep the moisture at bay. The coals are now just grey ash with a pulse of red at the centre. You walk over to it, you pick up a small iron poker, you stir the ash. Crackle, pop, sparks fly up, tiny orange fireflies that die in the air. You add a few pieces of charcoal from a bucket. They clink onto the pile. You blow gently on them. The red glow intensifies, warming your face. This is your first task. Keep the knowledge dry. If you fail, the mould will come. The mucor. It is a silent invader. It eats poetry for breakfast and history for dinner. You rub your hands together over the brazier. The friction makes a dry swish, swish sound. You look at the window. The shutters are closed tight, sealed with wax to stop the draft. You scrape a tiny peephole in the wax with your fingernail. You look out. Grey. Everything is grey. The sky is a sheet of lead. The olive trees are black skeletons shivering in the mist. The ground is covered in a glittering layer of hoarfrost. It looks beautiful, in a melancholy way. It looks like the world has been preserved in salt. You turn back to the room. The silence is profound. Winter is the season of thinking, not doing. The agricultural calendar has stopped. There is no harvest, there is no planting, there is only maintenance. You feel a sense of hibernation. Your movements are slower. Your thoughts are deeper. The frantic energy of the summer harvest is gone. You sit down at your desk. The wood is cold. You pull your chair closer to the brazier. You pick up a scroll. It feels stiff. The cold has made the papyrus brittle. You have to be careful unrolling it, or it might snap like a dry leaf. You treat it gently. You warm it near the coals, turning it slowly like a pig on a spit. The heat relaxes the fibres. The scroll sighs open. You dip your pen. The ink is cold too. It's thick, sluggish. You write the date, the calends of December. The ink takes longer to dry in the damp air. You watch it glisten, wet and black, for a long time. You are the guardian of the flame, quite literally today. You are the keeper of the warmth. The morning drags on. The sun eventually breaks through the grey clouds, but it's a weak, watery sun. It provides light, but no heat. The master enters the library. He is wearing 3 tunics and a heavy cloak lined with wolf fur. He looks like a round, woolen ball. It is damp, he complains, his breath steams. It is, master, you agree. Check the Greek section, he commands. I dreamt that Aristotle was soggy. So begins the great inspection. This is your winter ritual. You don't write much in winter. You curate. You move to the cedar shelves. You pull out a capsa, a cylindrical leather bucket that holds a bundle of scrolls. You open the lid. The smell of cedar oil rushes out. It is sharp, medicinal, and clean. It is the smell of safety. You pull out the scrolls one by one. You inspect them like a doctor inspecting a patient. You unroll the first foot of the Republic by Plato. You squint. You are looking for the enemy, foxing, tiny reddish-brown spots, or worse, the white fuzz of mildew. You run your finger down the margin, dry, clean. Plato is safe. You roll him back up. You wipe the outside of the scroll with a cloth dipped in cedar oil. Rub, rub, rub. It creates a protective barrier. You move to the next one. The Histories by Herodotus. Ah, trouble. At the very end of the scroll, near the wooden dowel, the paper feels soft. Limp. It feels like a damp rag. We have a casualty, you whisper. You take Herodotus to the brazier. You don't put him in the fire. That would be a tragedy, though some students might appreciate a shorter book. You hold him near the heat. You wave him gently back and forth. You watch the steam rise from the paper, faint wisps of moisture evaporating. The papyrus begins to stiffen again. It regains its crackle. You do this for hours. It is a repetitive, meditative task. Pull, inspect, sniff, wipe, heat, roll, clack, swish, sniff, whoosh. It sounds boring. It is boring. But it is the kind of boredom that relaxes the soul. You are saving the past. If you don't do this, the words will rot. The thoughts of great men will turn into mush. You find a scroll of love poems that has been chewed by a mouse. The winter has driven the rodents inside too. Critics, you mutter. Everyone's a critic. You trim the chewed edge with your knife. Slice. You make it neat again. The room gets warmer as the day goes on. The brazier, combined with the Hypocaust, finally fights off the chill. The air becomes cosy. The smell of the cedar oil mixes with the charcoal smoke, creating a scent that is intoxicating. It smells like an ancient church. You feel drowsy. The heat, the repetitive motion, the heavy lunch of bean soup you had earlier, it all conspires against you. You lean back on your stool. You hold a scroll of Sophocles in your lap. You close your eyes for just a second. The sound of the charcoal shifting in the brazier, tink, is the only thing that keeps you from falling asleep. You think about the summer, the sweat, the flies. The relentless sun, you decide you prefer winter. Winter is a blanket. Winter is an excuse to do less. Is Aristotle dry? The master asks, startling you. He hasn't moved from his chair in 2 hours. He's reading or pretending to. Aristotle is bone dry, master. You reply. Good, logic should never be damp. He goes back to his book. You go back to your inspection. Outside, the wind picks up. It howls around the corners of the villa. Woo! It rattles the shutters. But inside, in your fortress of books, you are safe. You are the curator of the dry, warm world. Days pass. The cold deepens. And then the mood changes. It is mid-December, the Saturnalia, the greatest festival of the year, the time when the world goes mad. For a week, the strict order of Rome is suspended. The courts are closed. War is forbidden. Executions are postponed. And most importantly, the social hierarchy is flipped. You, the scribe, the slave, are the king. Well, sort of. The master comes into the library, but he's not wearing his toga. He's wearing a synthesis, a colourful, garish dinner outfit that looks like modern pyjamas, and on his head he wears the pileus, the felt cap of liberty. He looks ridiculous. Io Saturnalia, he shouts. Io Saturnalia, master, you reply, trying not to smile. No, no, he waves a hand, not master. Today you are the master. I am the servant. What is your command, O mighty scribe? This is the game. You have to play along. It is awkward for everyone, but it is the tradition. My command, you say, looking at the pile of uncopied letters, is that we ignore these letters and play dice. A wise ruling, he booms. He produces a set of dice, tesserae made of bone. He clears the desk. He pours wine. Not the watered-down vinegar you usually get, but the good stuff, the Falernian. He pours it for you. You sit, you drink, it warms your chest instantly. You roll the dice. Rattle, rattle, clatter. They hit the wood 3 sixes, the Venus throw. By the gods, the master exclaims, you have the luck of the devil. He hands you a pile of coins, copper asses. You're winning his money. It feels surreal. Tomorrow he will own you again. Tomorrow you will give the coins back. It is expected. But for today you are winning. The villa is transformed. There are candles everywhere. Cerae, wax tapers given as gifts. They are burning on every ledge, every table, every niche. The library is glowing with a soft golden light. It looks magical. Boughs of holly and greenery are hung from the ceiling. The smell of pine needles cuts through the stale air. The kitchen is a factory of treats. You can smell honey cakes baking. You can smell roasted boar. You hear laughter from the slave quarters. They are gambling too. They are wearing their master's old clothes. There is shouting. There is singing. But you are a scribe. You are naturally quiet. You play dice with the master for an hour. He cheats terribly. He tries to distract you while he nudges a die with his pinky finger. You see it. You say nothing. It's part of the fun. He wants to win even when he's pretending to lose. After the game, he gives you your gift. It is a small package wrapped in papyrus. You open it. It is a new pen case made of polished walnut wood with a sliding lid. Inside there is a space for your reeds and a small pot for ink. For your scribbles, he grunts, looking away. He's embarrassed by affection. Thank you, you say. You mean it. It is a beautiful object. And here, he adds, handing you a small clay figure, a sigillaria. It is the little clay statuette of a scribe hunched over a desk. It looks exactly like you. You laugh. It is a caricature. The clay nose is too big. The clay back is too hunched. It captures my likeness perfectly, you say. The afternoon turns into evening. The wine makes everything hazy. The strict lines of the room seem to soften. The difference between master and slave blurs. For a few hours you are just 2 men sitting in a warm room, hiding from the winter, rolling bones and sharing a joke. This is the spirit of Saturnalia. It is a release valve. It lets the pressure out of the system so the empire doesn't explode. But eventually the master yawns. The wine has done its work. The servant is tired, he announces. The servant must retire. He stumbles off to bed, leaving you alone in the library. You look at the mess, the dice, the coins, the empty wine jug, the candle wax dripping onto the table. You should clean it up, but no, it is Saturnalia. You leave it. You pick up your new pen case, you slide the lid back and forth, click, clack. It is smooth. You blow out the candles one by one. Puff, puff, puff. The room darkens. The smell of extinguished wick hangs in the air, mixing with the pine and the wine. Io Saturnalia, you whisper to the empty room. It is late. The festival is over for the night. The house is asleep, sleeping off the wine and the rich food. You cannot sleep. The excitement of the day, the change in routine has left you wired. You walk to the window. You open the shutter. The world has changed again. While you were playing dice, while you were drinking wine, the sky opened up. Snow. It is rare in Rome, but here in the hills it happens, and when it does, it is a revelation. It is falling straight down, huge fluffy flakes, nicks. There is no wind. The snow is falling in total silence. It is the quietest thing in nature. You lean out. The cold air is refreshing after the stuffy candle-lit room. The garden is unrecognizable. The grey frost is gone, replaced by a thick white blanket. The fountain has frozen into a sculpture of ice, a waterfall caught in mid-air. The statues of the ancestors are wearing white hats and white cloaks. They look like they are in disguise for Saturnalia too. The cypress trees, usually so dark and severe, are dusted with sugar. The pine trees are bowing under the weight, their branches heavy and low. Creak, a branch settles under the snow. The light is strange. There is no moon, but the snow itself seems to glow. It reflects the starlight, amplifying it, creating a soft blue luminescence. It lights up the courtyard better than any lamp. You watch a flake land on the windowsill. It is a perfect crystal. A six-pointed star of ice. It sits there for a second, a masterpiece of geometry, and then it melts. Gone. Transience. You realize that your work is like the snow. You write words, you fill scrolls. But eventually the moth will eat them, the mould will take them, the fire will burn them, or the snow of time will bury them. But it doesn't matter. Just as the snowflake is beautiful for its brief moment, your work is meaningful for its time. You are keeping the order. You're holding back the chaos, one line at a time. You stick your hand out. You catch a snowflake on your palm. It is cold. It melts into a drop of water, the same water that flows in the aqueduct. The same water that mixes with the soot to make ink. It is all a cycle. Ice to water, water to ink, ink to words, words to memory, memory to dust, and dust to snow. You feel a profound peace settling over you. The anxiety of the scribe, the fear of the mistake vanishes. The snow covers everything. It erases the mistakes of the landscape. It makes the world a blank page again, a tabula rasa. Tomorrow the sun will come out. The snow will melt into slush, the roads will be muddy, the master will be grumpy and hungover, the letters will need to be written. But for now, the world is perfect. It is white, it is silent, it is asleep. You pull the shutter closed. Click. You turn back to the warmth of the house. You walk towards your niche. You are ready to sleep now. You have seen the magic. You crawl into your bed. The wool is warm. You close your eyes. And in your mind, the snow keeps falling, covering the villa, covering Rome, covering the empire, burying the noise of history in a soft white silence. Sleep, scribe, the page is blank, the winter is here, the snow has melted. It didn't happen all at once. It was a slow, dripping surrender. For days, the villa was filled with the sound of plip, plip, plip as the icicles wept from the roof tiles. The mud returned, rich and brown. And then, almost overnight, the green exploded. Spring has arrived, version. You are standing in the garden again. But it is no longer the silent frozen graveyard of winter. It is alive. It is noisy. It is buzzing. You are watching the bees. The master keeps hives at the back of the orchard. Alvearia. They are woven baskets turned upside down, humming with the energy of 10,000 tiny workers. You respect the bees. In fact, you feel a professional kinship with them. They are the scribes of nature. They gather raw material, nectar. They process it, honey, and they build archives, honeycomb. They are organized. They are diligent. They serve a queen, which is better than serving a senator, you suspect. But you are not here for the honey. You are here for the byproduct, the wax, Kira. Without the bee, you cannot have the draft. Papyrus is expensive. You can't waste it on rough notes. For the daily grocery lists, the draft letters, the bad poetry, you need wax tablets. and the old tablets are cracked and grey. It is time to renew them. You watch the estate manager harvest the wax. He is covered in thick cloth, moving slowly among the hives with smoke. He cuts the comb. Later, in the kitchen courtyard, you participate in the rendering. A large copper cauldron sits over a fire. The crushed combs are thrown in. Sizzle. The smell is overpowering and delicious. It smells of warm honey, pollen, and summer flowers. It is the scent of sunlight trapped in a solid. You watch it melt. The yellow lumps dissolve into a golden liquid. It is thick, viscous. It moves like lava. You stir it with a long wooden paddle. Swirl, swirl. You have to strain out the bee parts, the dirt, the debris. You pour it through a cheesecloth. Below, the purified wax drips into a clean bowl. It is translucent amber. Now comes the alchemy. You add the soot, the same lamp black kit you used for the ink. You stir it in. The gold turns to black. The sunlight is eclipsed. You're making the night again. You have a stack of wooden frames ready. Beechwood, hollowed out. You pour the hot black liquid into the frames. Glug, slop. You have to be quick but steady. You fill the depression to the brim. The wax seeks its own level. It becomes a perfect flat mirror. Then you wait. You watch it cool. This is the most satisfying part. As the heat leaves the wax, it turns from glossy to matte. It changes colour from deep black to a soft, dark charcoal. It solidifies. You touch it with your finger. It is still warm, soft like skin. It yields slightly. Perfect. You have created a new surface, a tabula rasa. You pick up one of the fresh tablets. It smells faint and sweet. It is ready for the master's mistakes. It is ready to be scratched, erased, and scratched again. The birds are singing in the olive trees. The air is mild, carrying the scent of almond blossoms. The cycle of the year has turned. The world is soft again, and you have fresh tools. But the warmth makes you sleepy. The smell of the warm wax acts like a drug. You lean against the warm stone wall of the garden. Your eyes close. The buzzing of the bees gets louder. It surrounds you. It lifts you up. You drift away from the garden, carried on the wings of the swarm. Part 19, The Coast of Knowledge. The buzzing of the bees changes pitch. It deepens. It becomes a roar. Whoosh! Crash. It is the sound of the sea. You are no longer in Italy. You are standing on white sand. The light is blindingly bright, harder and sharper than the Roman sun. This is the light of Africa. You look up. Towering above you, piercing the blue sky, is a mountain of white stone. It is not a temple, it is a machine of light. The Pharaohs, the lighthouse of Alexandria. A fire burns at its summit, magnified by the mirrors, guiding ships from the edge of the world. But you are not a sailor. You are not here for the lighthouse. You are here for what lies in its shadow. You walk through the streets. They are wide, paved with marble, lined with palm trees. You hear a dozen languages: Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, Latin, Aramaic. This is the crossroads of the world. You reach the gates of the Mauseon, the Temple of the Muses. You enter. It's cool inside. The air is climate-controlled by the thick stone walls and the clever ventilation shafts. And there it is, the Great Library. It is not a single room, it is a city of shelves. Armaria, they stretch for miles. Corridors of cedar, hallways of shelving rising up to the ceilings. And the scrolls. My gods, these scrolls. There are hundreds of thousands of them. They are stacked like logs in a forest. Some are wrapped in linen, some in leather. Some have purple tags, some red. You walk down the central aisle. You feel tiny, you feel insignificant, but you also feel home. This is the brain of humanity. Every thought worth thinking is stored here. Homer is here in his original dialect. The star charts of Babylon are here. The medical secrets of India are here. You reach out and touch a scroll. It vibrates with energy. You see figures moving in the shadows. They are the librarians, the scholars. They wear simple grey robes. They move silently like monks. You recognize them from the busts in your master's study. There is Callimachus cataloguing the stars. There is Eratosthenes calculating the circumference of the earth with a stick and a shadow. They don't look at you. They are busy. They have work to do. You realize that this is where you belong, not serving a master who cares only about wine and politics, but here, serving the knowledge itself. You find a quiet desk in the corner. A shaft of light illuminates a blank sheet of papyrus. There is a pen. There is ink. You sit down. You are not tired here. You are energized. You have infinite time. You can read everything. You can copy everything. You dip the pen. But you don't write, you just listen. You listen to the silence of the library. It is a heavy, pregnant silence. It is the sound of a million voices waiting to be heard. Hush! The sea crashes outside, but in here the water is still. You feel a sense of completion. You have reached the summit. You have seen the source. The vision holds you. It comforts you. It tells you that your work matters, that every scratched line in a dark villa in Italy is part of this great web. You're a thread in the tapestry. The light begins to fade. The white marble turns to grey. The library is closing. Sleep, scholar, the ghosts whisper. The books will be here when you wake. You drift back across the sea, back across the time. You open your eyes. You're back in the niche under the stairs. It is night again. But it is not just any night. It feels like the night. You're old now. How did that happen? It happened between the lines. It happened in the space between the words. You blinked, and 40 years passed. The joints in your fingers are swollen. The scribe's pinch has become a permanent claw. Your back is bent, shaped by the curvature of the stool. Your eyes are dim, clouded by decades of candlelight and squinting. But you are calm. You are sitting at your desk. The villa is quiet. The master, the old master, is long dead. His son is the master now, or perhaps his grandson. Doesn't matter. Masters come and go. Scribes remain. In front of you lies a great stack of finished scrolls. It is done. The great work. The history you have been copying for years. Livy's history of Rome. All of it. From the founding of the city to the present day. You dip your pen for the last time. The reed is worn just like you. The nib is soft. You look at the bottom of the final column. You write the final words. And thus the Republic endured. You lift the hand. It trembles slightly. You move to the space below the text. You write the colophon, the signature. Explicit. It is finished. Scriptum per manum servum. Written by the hand of the servant. You put the pen down, clack. The sound echoes in the room. It sounds like a door closing. You look at the ink pot. It is empty. You look at the candle. It is burning low, drowning in a pool of wax. You don't reach for a fresh candle. You don't need one. You stand up. Slowly, painfully. Your bones creak like the timbers of an old ship settling into the harbour. You walk to the window. You open the shutter one last time. The night sky is there. The same sky you looked at 40 years ago. Orion is still hunting. Sirius is still burning. They haven't aged a day. You breathe in the air. It smells of jasmine and dust. It smells of a life well spent. You have spent your life in the shadows, copying the light of others. You have been the conduit. You have been the vessel. And now the vessel is full. You turn back to the room. The library is full of ghosts. Not scary ghosts, friendly ones, the ghosts of the words you wrote. You walk to your niche. You lie down on the straw mattress. It is no longer uncomfortable. It feels like a cloud. You pull the wool blanket up to your chin. Your hands, stained with the ink of 1,000 nights, rest on your chest. They have done their work. They can stop now. You close your eyes. There is no more Cato, no more lists of wine, no more grammar, no more anxiety. There is only the drift. You imagine the river Styx. It is dark and quiet, like ink. A boat is waiting. The ferryman is silent. You step into the boat. It pushes off from the shore. Push, glide, push, glide. The villa fades behind you. Rome fades behind you. You are moving towards a library that has no walls. A place where the stories simply are, floating in the ether. The rhythm of the water lulls you. Deep, slow, deep, slow. The candle in the library flickers and goes out. The smoke rises. The darkness is complete. But it is a warm darkness, a resting darkness. You're safe, you're finished, you're free. Sleep.